A woman in a black hat asks her interlocutor what it was like to be Archmage Lancher's childhood friend. The silver-haired girl invites her to imagine what it would be like to be Lancher's close friend. She continues eating and asks how her interlocutor sees such an experience. The woman in the hat replies that if she were in her place, she would boast about such a powerful ally to the whole city. The silver-haired girl is surprised and asks with a smile if she's serious about that. The story begins about Lancher Solly, the third son of Duke Solly. He is a powerful archmage, born once every 1,000 years and capable of subjugating people. This girl, Skyla, is his childhood friend, the very person everyone admires. She recalls how, as a child, she once complained about the hot weather. In response, little Lancher created a personal rain for her, which greatly angered her. Another time, Skyla was too lazy to go eat, so she just lay on the floor. Lancher then split the floor with magic to make a path for her, which greatly frightened her. He also tried to comfort her when she was upset about the Duke and Duchess of Kerry. But when he started saying that he would do something for her, she silenced him by threatening to kill him. Despite this, they also had happy moments when he hugged her while reading a book. Skyla comes to the conclusion that being an Archmage's childhood friend is much more painful than she could imagine. Back in the present, she walks down the hallway, the maids around her whispering so that no one looks her in the eye. They fear her stern gaze because they never know what she might find fault with. She calls her assistant Austin and asks about the schedule for today. Austin reports that she has duties as Duke, tea at 4 o'clock, and dinner with the Duke and Duchess of Cairn. Austin continues listing her chores, including planning an event until 11 p.m., but Skyla stops him. Suddenly, a beaming Lancher appears and joyfully invites her to have tea with him. Skyla jumps in surprise and angrily says that he scared her. Her assistant, Austin, panics and screams that he almost lost the child before formally greeting the Duke of Lancher. Lancher begs Skyla to come with him, praising the excellent jasmine tea he has acquired at his house. He persistently offers other types of tea, but she irritably replies that she is busy. Lancher looks very upset and hurt by her refusal. He doesn't give up and says he will wait until she finishes her work. He comes into her office and, leaning over the table, continues to persuade her. Austin watches this scene and thinks that the lady is heartless, since she does not give in to such sincere persuasion. Skyla calls Austin over with a sinister smile, and he obediently responds. She orders a carriage to be prepared to go to the Marquise Garnet. A delighted Lancher declares that he will then go to Garnet's estate with her. She explains to him with a headache that this is a meeting for girls only, and he can't go with her. Lancher asks with tears in his eyes why, since he is her childhood friend, but she still refuses. She says that she can only survive by following 3 rules, and he responds by saying that then he will simply become a girl. Skyla looks extremely frustrated because she can't give up that easily. She smiles slyly and asks how he will get into the Marquise's estate without an invitation. At that very moment, he turns into a little girl and creates an invitation for himself. She understands that this guy is like an indestructible shield, and she will not be able to stop him. Skyla comes up with a new argument and says that the tea party is only for 4. She explains that his sudden appearance will arouse suspicion, since the number of guests will not match. Lancher, in the guise of a girl with tears in her eyes, promises to make sure nothing arouses suspicion. He disappears briefly and immediately returns in the same guise, joyfully announcing his return. Skyla asks him where he went with a menacing smile. He smugly replies that he has convinced them. He explains that he convinced all the ladies at the tea party that there should be 5 of them. In a rage, Skyla throws him out of the office through the window and screams at him to remove the spell immediately. Lancher, back to his usual self, sits sadly on the couch and says that he is sad. She responds indifferently, so that he would just stop being sad. He starts crying and complaining that she doesn't spend any time with him and that he is very lonely. Skyla sighs wearily as she takes out and folds her handkerchief. She hands the handkerchief to a surprised Lancher. She says that if he is lonely, he should think that it is her, and now it is time for him to leave because she is busy. Lancher looks at the handkerchief in his hand and wonders doubtfully if it must be Skyla's. Skyla sits down at her desk, hoping that now she can concentrate. Her constant busyness is no excuse, as she serves as deputy to the Duke of Cairn, the head of one of the most influential families. And all because her loving parents see her work as nothing more than an attempt to separate them. She clutches her head in despair, because her parents have given her all the powers so that she can enjoy her second honeymoon. But despite all the difficulties, she understands that now the greatest power in life is in her hands. Skyla sits at the table, thinking that having power isn't so bad, until a white dove flies past the window. Suddenly, she realizes with irritation that the room has become suspiciously quiet. She jumps up from the table, noticing the golden glow, and anxiously wonders if this is alchemy. Lancher appears with the ring and says that he tried to make it as beautiful as she is. He gets down on one knee, takes her hand, and putting the ring on it, tells her she is beautiful. A confused Skyla remembers her vow to never fall for Lancher's charms. Her parents suddenly appear and joyfully congratulate the couple on their wedding. Skyla freezes in shock as her mother urges Lancher to put the love token on his finger. Their parents are delighted and ask them to get married so that they can finally retire. Lancher prepares to make a proposal on behalf of the Grimms, looking serious. He holds out the ring and asks Skyla to marry him because he likes her. Skyla looks smugly at the ring on her finger and thinks, "Thank goodness." She waves to her parents with a smile and calmly says that she doesn't want to get married. Everyone is horrified. The parents and Lancher start screaming and begging her to agree, but she wants to resign. Skyla becomes hysterical and cries out in tears, wondering if she is the only sane person here. Outside the castle, Lancher's scream is heard, begging Skyla not to leave him. She turns around and with a cold expression asks what it means to leave him. Skyla tells him that he was never hers, leaving him heartbroken. Her parents peek through the door as Lancher notes that this is his 316th rejected proposal. In a rage, Skyla grabs Lancher and tries to push him out, screaming at him to just go home. A maid with pink hair appears and asks if Milady called her. Skyla pushes Lancher away in irritation and orders her to escort him out while he pleads with her, reminding her of their friendship. Lancher, with tears in his eyes, cries out that in the language of flowers, childhood friend means future spouse. Skyla furiously asks who told him that and whose words he got it from. She orders him taken out, and the maid drags away a reluctant Lancher, who continues to call for Skyla. Later, the maid combs Skyla's hair and suggests that she change into something more appropriate. Skyla doesn't see the point, since her current outfit is clean. The maid explains that the tea party's host, Lady Aronia, might humiliate her for appearing too simple. Skyla looks down, thinking that Aronia doesn't like her anyway. We are introduced to Aronia Garnet, the daughter of a marquis whose influence in society is rapidly growing. In the past, Aronia discussed with Skyla that she was thinking of starting a spice trade. After reviewing the proposed plan, Skyla realized that the numbers listed did not add up. She honestly advised Aronia to abandon this idea before it was too late. Aronia, offended, left, and Skyla silently watched her. Soon Aronia burst back into the room in a rage, shouting Lady Skyla's name. She accused Skyla of being rude and of snitching on her father about her affairs without asking. Skyla calmly replied that she was simply giving the Marquise some friendly advice about the spice idea. Aronia shouted angrily that it was her business and she was no longer a child. She declared that she would handle her own affairs and left the room in a rage. As a result, Aronia not only lost her investment, but also caused losses to her family, after which she was forbidden to touch the family money. Skyla muses that Aronia must still be upset with her and doesn't understand why she was invited then. She calls her maid Fabrize decisively. Skyla decides with a smile that this is just a short visit and nothing bad can happen. She confidently declares that no one in this kingdom would dare to underestimate the daughter of the Duke of Cairn. In the end, she proudly reminds that she is Skyla Cairn. Fabrize is delighted by her confidence and decides to write these words down as one of Lady Skyla's great quotes. As she leaves the house, Skyla begins to doubt whether she is dressed too simply. She decides to travel in everyday clothes and in a simple carriage without a coat of arms, like the ones used by commoners. She orders the coachman to take her to the Marquisate of Garnet, still dressed as a common townswoman. The appearance of such a modest carriage at the gates of a noble aristocratic house is unlikely to be received favorably. The coachman is ready to go, but the question remains, why was it necessary to disguise himself as a commoner? Skyla explains with a smile that the official preparations are too much trouble. She is known for turning down countless suitors simply because they bored her. And the fact that she is a childhood friend of the famous Lancer complicates her life even more. Sitting in the carriage, she wonders whether she is obliged to be polite to someone who cannot stand her. She is going to this tea party only because her parents insisted on her socialization. The more she thinks about the fact that they are trying to marry her to Lancer, the angrier she becomes. She remembers one day deciding to check with Lancer, just in case, what he meant when he said he liked her. Lancer stands in front of her, looking a little puzzled by her question. She asked him point blank if he liked her just as a friend, or as a woman and an object of romantic interest. Lancer didn't understand the question, and asked what the difference was, which shocked Skyla. She remembers that Lancer is the strongest mage on the continent. He is as innocent as a child, but cold as ice. His magic is heavily dependent on emotions, and if his feelings get out of control, there could be problems. If his immature soul cannot cope with his feelings, his magic may follow him and cause destruction. In the carriage, Fabrizi notices that Skyla looks unwell and asks how she is feeling. Skyla replies that she's just tired of this Lancer. Fabrez suggests asking the Royal Knights to place a restraining order on him, but Skyla thinks she could beat the crap out of him herself. She refuses the idea, fearing that the Royal Knights might be harmed. She also remembers Lancer's father, Duke Solly, begging her for something. He asked her with tears in his eyes not to abandon his son, which surprised her greatly. Because of all this, she realizes that she can't just push Lancer away. Suddenly, the carriage shakes violently, and Fabrizi screams in fear, asking if Milady is all right. Skyla looks out the window in shock, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. A man emerges from another, more luxurious carriage and yells at their coachman for driving recklessly. Skyla notices a strange coat of arms on his carriage and wonders what family he is from. Fabrez is indignant because it is obvious that they were the ones who cut them off. Skyla gets out of the carriage and angrily asks the man why he is yelling at her coachman when it is his own fault. The man looks down on her and dismissively calls her an upstart commoner. He yells at her in a rage, asking who she even is to interfere, not understanding anything. Fabriz angrily yells at the man for his rudeness and the way he treats their young lady. The man looks at Skyla with disdain and assumes that she is the daughter of some nouveau riche. Skyla listens calmly to his ridicule, thinking about how easy it is to ruin a person's life. He arrogantly invites her to come to the house of Viscount Artisan to find out everything. Skyla wonders if this unknown family actually exists. The man hurries his men, and Skyla watches him with a sly smile. Fabrez asks in disappointment if all this man can do is just yell. Skyla, surrounded by flowers, asks the man with a sweet smile if he thinks he won. She regretfully says that she will have to stoop to his level, leaving him confused. Skyla starts yelling at him furiously, calling him a pickled slap and demanding that he turn the steering wheel properly. She continues to insult him, and the man is horrified and thinks that she is a real bitch. Tired of screaming, Skyla puts her hand to her forehead and calls out for Fabrizi. She orders the man's carriage to be removed from the road, calling it a bad omen. Fabriz obediently follows the order, which frightens the man. Skyla coldly warns him to be quiet in the future if he doesn't want the lady to crack his skull. Already in the carriage, she thoughtfully asks what kind of noble families these are. She recalls that the crown prince handed out many new titles to strengthen his position. Fabrizi suggests filing a protest, but Skyla lazily declines, finding it too much trouble. She decides with a sly smile that next time, if he gets caught again, she won't stand on ceremony with him. Their simple carriage continues its journey along the road. Aronia greets Skyla with a fake smile, mentally outraged by her simple appearance, but out loud tells her to pass. She remarks with feigned surprise that she did not expect Skyla to come, since she was not obliged to do so. Skyla is puzzled why Aronia is saying this, since she was the one who invited her. At the table, the other ladies whisper that Skyla has ruined the whole atmosphere for them, since they are not that close. Skyla, arms crossed, notices that they haven't even prepared a place for her at the table. However, they still bring her a chair and pour her tea, and she thinks that this was expected. She calmly drinks tea, remembering that she is known for her dislike of social events. She reflects that she didn't think her parents would try to set her up like that. Aronia apologizes with a sweet smile, saying that she did not expect her visit. She continues that if Skyla was going to show up like that, it would have been better if she hadn't shown up at all. Other guests also begin to nod in agreement and express their dissatisfaction. Skyla drinks her tea with a smile, noting to herself how much these gossips irritate her. She says boredly that they don't care whether they hate her or not, and suggests that she interrupted their meeting. Aronia and the other ladies sheepishly deny it. Skyla thinks that she hates situations like this. One of the ladies mentions that there will be a ball at the palace next week. It's exactly this kind of conversation that Skyla hates the most, like now. One of the girls boasts that she has acquired the perfume of seduction, and now the prince will be her puppet. Another lady enthusiastically says that Dolce has every chance, because she took such good care of her skin. Skyla thinks to herself with disgust that she should go and take a bath. Another girl boasts that her outfit is from the first couturier of the royal palace, and now the prince will look only at her. Skyla thinks with irritation that this is some kind of circus. She sits at the table and does not want to know the dark and perverted thoughts of these girls. She doesn't care at all who the crown prince marries, even a flounder. Skyla regretfully thinks that she would have been better off staying with Lancher. She reflects that she never heard Lancher's true thoughts. Perhaps it is because his magic is stronger than that of the sorcerer who cursed her. She so wants to flip the table over and get out of here, so that she will never be invited to tea parties again. As she was about to leave, Fabrizi brought her the gift box she had forgotten. Aronia asks in surprise what kind of gift this is. Skyla calmly orders Fabrizi to open the box. Fabrizi asks if she brought it to treat everyone, but Skyla replies that she is simply touched by her mother's thoughtfulness. She thinks to herself what hypocrites they all are, because a minute ago they were cursing her in their thoughts. Aronia asks Princess Skyla's opinion with a smile. She and the other girls are interested in which of them, in Skyla's opinion, might appeal to His Highness, the Crown Prince. Skyla can barely contain her anger, not understanding why they are asking her of all people. She replies that the Crown Prince, being a man, will choose the young beauty. Skyla is confused as to why they are even asking her this question, and replies that he will probably choose the one he likes. Girls continue to ask him what type of women he is interested in, assuming that they are flawless girls. Aronia, with her eyes closed, says that it is absolutely correct, and she completely agrees with Lady Skyla. Aronia asks with a smile if the candidate's title is important, hinting that her background makes her the leading contender. Skyla looks very tired and hopes that this situation will somehow resolve itself. However, the other ladies at the table pick up the topic and start talking about titles. Aronia, with a malicious smile, declares that Lady Skyla is of House Cairn, making her the most likely candidate. The other girls are shocked by this statement, and Aronia drops her cup in surprise. Another girl sarcastically asks if Lady Skyla is already in a relationship and is planning to cheat on Duke Lancher. Skyla furiously asks why they even think she's with Lancher, but the girls pretend not to understand her anger. Aronia calmly explains that there are rumors of a deep affection between Lady Skyla and Duke Lancher. Skyla slams her hand down on the table and angrily asks who is spreading such nonsense. Aronia backs away in fear, and Skyla leans towards her with a threatening look. She furiously imagines herself turning the entire table over, tired of rumors and intrigues. She points sternly at Aronia and tells her to remember once and for all. Skyla, her eyes shining, declares that she is a fan of handsome men. Her goal in life is to meet all the wonderful men in the world, not just the illustrious Lancher. She says she won't let someone like Aronia take the crown prince away from her so easily. Aronia calls her impudent and swears that at any cost, she will become the crown prince's wife and take revenge on her. Skyla has a headache thinking about how she doesn't care who becomes the crown princess. She holds out her hand imperiously and orders Fabrizi to hand her one of those sheets of paper. The maid immediately replies that she obeys and turns to carry out her instructions. Climbing onto the roof of the carriage, she begins to write something on a piece of paper, which shocks her maid. Skyla hands over the check and says that should be enough. Aronia is shocked and can't believe that she is now being offered money. Skyla asks with a sly smile if that means she won't take the check. Aronia angrily pushes her hand away and shouts that she doesn't need the money. She accuses Skyla of trying to atone for her tactlessness with money. Another girl screams that they shouldn't have invited Skyla in the first place. One of the ladies picks up the discarded check. She sees with horror that the check states the amount of 500,000 francs. Skyla asks with a grin how hard it is to refuse such a sum. She reminds them that House Cairn is a wealthy family, and that she, as acting duchess, has a vast fortune. She suggests that they invest this money in a new business, after which she declares that she is tired of their company and asks them not to invite her anymore. Skyla calls out to Fabrizi, and they leave, leaving the stunned girls behind. She reflects on her tedious curse, which forces her to confront the hypocrisy and duality of human nature. In the carriage, Fabrizi worries about Milady's condition, thinking to himself that all this disgrace could have been avoided. Skyla feels very tired because she met too many people today. Meanwhile, Lansher thinks that Skyla is the spitting image of her parents, and their essence has completely passed on to her. Skyla's parents admire Lansher for being a master of words. Skyla, returning, is furious to see them all together, and asks Lansher what he is doing here. She is horrified to see that he has brought her as a gift a family heirloom of House Cairn, the treasure of their family. She recalls that they didn't even bring her this relic on her birthday, but for Lansher's sake they made an exception. Parents are delighted to welcome their precious and sweet baby girl, Skyla. She addresses them coldly, father, mother, and they cover their faces with their hands in embarrassment. Lansher corrects her with a beaming smile, telling her to say mommy and daddy. Skyla replies that she is already an adult, runs the house, and does not want to talk like a child. The parents begin to sob theatrically, begging her to call them affectionately, but she remains unperturbed. Lansher mockingly remarks that she hasn't even had time to be upset about the relic, and Skyla asks why he hasn't gone home yet. Lansher happily thinks she is showing interest in him, but Skyla denies it in horror. Her parents, wearing masks, sneak up on her, telling her that she is already a grown-up girl of the right age. They ask if this means she can now get married. The parents, with ominous faces, say that they are always ready, and everything depends only on her decision. Lansher hugs her from behind and proposes again as her parents scream for her to marry him. Skyla despairs when she thinks that her parents are dreaming of retirement, and she also wants a title, but cannot get it. She angrily tells Lansher that this doesn't mean she's willing to marry just anyone. Lansher suddenly says her name very softly, surprising her. He excitedly asks if she's happy to see him, and Skyla, exasperated, tells him to stop talking nonsense and get up. She tries to lift him up, but is surprised to notice that he is not moving. He asks her with concern what's wrong with her. Skyla looks at him suspiciously and asks if he has gained weight. Lansher panics and begins to justify himself by saying that he is of normal weight, eats right, and exercises regularly. He admits that he went a little overboard with the desserts yesterday when choosing what to offer her, and Skyla remembers his gift with surprise. Skyla realizes that Lansher is now an adult. She looks at him and realizes that she hadn't noticed how much he had grown. Lansher calls her name, and she responds excitedly. He gently touches her hair and says that her eyes are like the clear sky. Lansher adds with a smile that he immediately feels better when he looks into them. Skyla is confused, and he continues, saying that they are like a beautiful sunset. Their parents watch them with delight and hope that they will finally get married and allow them to retire. Skyla is furious and yells at her mother for saying such nonsense, but her mother only scolds her for being rude. Lansher intervenes, telling Duke Cairn that he is not just others. He proudly declares that he is Skyla's only childhood friend, and her parents are touched. In the end, Lansher couldn't be driven out, and he sat down next to Skyla, who tiredly covered her face with her hands. The father says that there is no one better for their daughter than Lansher, and complains that she is not as kind as he is. Lansher stands up for Skyla, saying that she is not a bad person at all, but is very kind and sensitive inside. Skyla thinks that if there are 4 insults for every kind word, then it is better to remain silent. Her parents are touched and say that it would be wonderful if she spent her whole life with a man like Lansher. They suggest that they just get married, and while Lansher happily agrees, Skyla furiously screams no. She desperately asks why they keep trying to marry her off to Lansher, when this is already the 317th time. She looks away, reminding her father that she is one of the Cairns. The Duke seriously says that in order to inherit the title, she needs a husband. He reminds her that she has been coping with her responsibilities perfectly for a year now, and now it's time to settle down and get married. Father dreamily says that he wants to escape to a land of sweet candies and heavenly love as soon as Skyla becomes a duchess. Lansher hopefully asks if she will marry him then, but she coldly orders him to hide. Her parents, in despair, ask who she will marry if not Lansher, and beg her to let them retire. Skyla looks tired and says she'll go. She walks down the corridor, thinking that for her parents she is just an heiress, onto whom they want to quickly dump the title. She goes out into the garden and lies down on the grass, thinking how disgusting it is that only her parents and the magician know about her curse. She understands that her parents are madly in love, but she cannot forgive them for their inattention to her. Lancher suddenly appears and asks worriedly what happened and why she is in a bad mood. He insistently asks her to tell him what is wrong, but she thinks that he is only worried because the reason is in himself. She waves him off, saying she's not in the mood for jokes, and asks him to leave. He doesn't leave, but instead asks when she'll be in the mood for jokes and suggests they wait. Skyla breaks down and screams that she is fed up with the way her parents act like teenagers in love. She immediately regrets her words, but thinks it's a good excuse to get him to stop asking questions. Lancher says seriously that he understands. He sits next to her under a tree against the backdrop of the sunset and offers to destroy the relationship of the Duke and Duchess. He looks at her with a smile and repeats his proposal. He assumes that she is in a bad mood because of their saccharine endearments and asks if it will make her feel better if he breaks them up. Skyla panics and screams at him not to do this under any circumstances. She knows that the only good thing about the Cairns is their strong relationship, which cannot be destroyed. She angrily scolds him and tells him to stop using magic on people. Lancher seriously asks if she will marry him if he refuses to use magic, but Skyla firmly replies that she will never do that. He leans tenderly towards her and says that then she will no longer be the Skyla he loves. His voice is soft as always, but all of this is so irritating to Skyla. He whispers again that he likes her. Skyla pulls away and asks him if he's too hot since it's summer. She jumps up and says with horror that he wouldn't dare. Lancher looks confused and doesn't understand what exactly he doesn't dare do. She reminds him of how last year he made it rain when she said she was hot. Lancher remembers this happily and says that she doesn't like rain. Skyla panics and screams at him to stop as he begins to cast a spell. Suddenly, in the middle of summer, it starts snowing, shocking the maids. Lancher explains that since she doesn't like rain, he tried snow and asks how she likes it. He proudly asks if he did well. Skyla is furious and yells at him to go home. When he returns to the palace, he showers her with compliments. The parents start arguing over who should speak, and Skyla reminds them that she can hear everything. Father says he has one dream and asks Skyla to make it come true. She immediately refuses, but her parents insist that she at least listen. She replies that her ears have already fallen off, and her father, realizing that she heard everything, says that it is time to give an answer. He explains that the groom is enough for them, because the engagement is also a contract that will allow her to inherit the title. Skyla looks tired and says that she knows, but she doesn't have anyone to marry yet. Her parents regretfully come to the conclusion that Lancher is truly not suitable for her. Although even Duke Solly considered their union a success, her mother suggests that she find a husband at the royal ball. Skyla is angry, not understanding why everyone is treating the ball like a marriage market. Her parents, recalling their fateful meeting 20 years ago, are delighted with the idea. The mother, with tears in her eyes, says that she only wants her daughter to be happy, although it would be nice if the groom had good bloodlines. The father adds that he doesn't ask for much either, just an income of at least 100,000 francs a month. They go on to list requirements, including screening for hidden diseases and a complete background check. Skyla explodes in rage, screaming that this is what they call not asking for much. She firmly declares that she will take full responsibility for the Duke's House of Cairn, which shocks her parents. With a sinister smile, she asks them to stop pressuring her about marriage. She leaves thinking that she should have found a husband just so that their retirement wouldn't be delayed. Standing in front of her office door, she notices strange lights and wonders if this is a Fabrizi-style hint. She allows entry, and her maid Fabrizi appears at the door. Fabrizi is her personal maid, and one of the few people Skyla trusts. The reason for her trust is that Fabrizi is devoted to her to the core and constantly showers her with compliments. Skyla thinks with a smile that only Fabrizi dares to compliment her even behind the door, and asks what's the matter. Fabrizi reports that a royal messenger has arrived with a letter that must be delivered to her personally. Skyla panics, wondering if it was because of that tea party, but quickly dismisses the thought. A messenger enters the office and, bowing, formally greets Lady Skyla of House Cairn. The messenger apologizes for the early visit and gives Skyla a letter from the Crown Prince. She recalls that she and the Crown Prince never really communicated and are essentially strangers. Skyla holds a personal letter from him in her hands with surprise. She thanks the messenger and asks if an immediate response is required, but he says that His Highness does not expect an answer. She asks Fabrice to help her open the letter. After reading the letter, she is shocked to realize that this is not just a letter. The letter bears the Crown Prince's seal, making it an official decree. In the decree, the Crown Prince invites her to meet him in his chambers at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she drops the letter in horror. She can't believe what's happening and asks in confusion what it is. Fabrice, wearing dark glasses, announces that the Crown Prince wishes to see her today and promises to prepare everything for the visit. Fabrice is delighted that even the Crown Prince couldn't resist her young lady's charms, but Skyla thinks that's not the point. The maids begin to whisper excitedly that the young lady is going to meet his lordship. The news quickly spread throughout the mansion. The butlers are shocked and discuss whether this meeting signifies an intention to marry. Skyla's parents burst into her room and ask in a panic if it's true. They shout with tears of joy that she will be engaged to the Crown Prince. Skyla's head hurts as she wonders who could have come up with such nonsense. Suddenly, she notices Austin, her assistant, who looks very worried. He says with concern that there are rumors circulating in the Duke's house now. He begs her to be careful. Austin tearfully asks Skyla to kick everyone out because he needs to change. Fabrice struggles to hold the door open, and Skyla thinks with relief that it's finally quieter. She realizes with weariness that she will now have to deal with the preparations for the visit. Fabrice brings her a fluffy pink dress, and Skyla is horrified that this is too much. The maid explains that it's the latest fashion, but Skyla thinks it's more like a fashion for self-strangulation. She firmly asks to bring her another dress. She recalls how one lady almost drowned because of the weight of a similar dress. Skyla is adamant that she doesn't want her life to be ended by a dress. Fabrice tries to persuade her, explaining that she ordered this dress with her own money and that Milady will look irresistible in it. Skyla angrily orders another dress to be brought to her immediately if Fabrice does not want her to die under its weight. She ends up choosing a simpler dress, and the coachman says she looks great, and she replies that of course, since she will be driving the carriage. They travel to the palace in Duke Cairn's personal carriage. The carriage is enchanted for comfort, and they arrive at a beautiful garden in the palace. A blue butterfly lands on Skyla's finger, and she notices that it is the same color as Lancher's eyes. She thinks with concern about the fact that he hasn't shown up for several days, and wonders if he was too shaken by her throwing him out. Fabrice assumes he's upset, but Skyla doesn't care whether he comes or not. Fabrice asks with a grim look if she should kill the butterfly. Skyla panics and screams at her not to do it. The maid explains that she asked because the butterfly seems to be bothering her, but Skyla tells her to forget about it. Looking at the butterfly, Skyla wonders out loud if she should just marry Lancher. Lancher is revealed to be a great mage who appears once every 1,000 years, whose power is limitless. Skyla despairs when she considers Lancher's proposal, seeing marriage with him as the only way out. The heroine comes to her senses, scolding her own weakness and momentary insanity from stress. The girl remembers the crazy actions of Lancher, who once literally fulfilled her rule about 5 guests at a reception. Another time, the young man moved the royal canals so that his childhood friend could see the sea from her home. Once, a young man even extended the day to 26 hours, hearing complaints about the lack of time. The guy always said Skyla's name with a beaming smile, ready to do anything crazy for her. Skyla imagines a nightmarish future where she becomes a lonely farmer, looking after her husband. Fabrice suggests that yesterday's talk of marriage is still troubling the hostess. The girl warmly realizes that her faithful maid has been by her side almost her entire life. Skyla tries to convince herself that everything is okay, although doubts never leave her. The faithful servant advises not to rush into a decision due to parental pressure. Fabrice, seeing the despair of his mistress, suggests an unexpected and bold solution. The maid gets down on one knee and asks Skyla to marry her. Skyla freezes in complete shock, unable to believe what is happening. Fabrice, with complete seriousness and calm, repeats his incredible proposal. The maid promises to return in a month under a new guise to become a worthy match. The girl assures that her new identity will be impeccable and will not arouse suspicion even from the Duke. The maid looks at her mistress with hope, waiting for an answer to her proposal. Skyla realizes with horror that her faithful maid is completely serious. Febreze apologizes with deep respect for what she considers to be her disrespectful proposal. Skyla stops her faithful maid before she can finish her apology. The heroine recalls a lonely childhood spent preparing for the role of the next Duchess of Cairn. The girl sacrificed time with friends, choosing the path of duty and responsibility. She spent her entire childhood surrounded by books, giving up a calm and comfortable life for the sake of one dream. Skyla appreciates the maid's intentions, but understands that Febreze took such a desperate step out of powerlessness. The heroine feels dizzy and desperately searches for a way to stop the madness that is happening. The girl runs out of the room in panic, not understanding what has been happening to her lately. On the street, the heroine hears a familiar voice that apologizes to her. Skyla sees a scene before her that is remarkably similar to the recent road accident. The man in the hat sheepishly explains that he has just received his carriage license. His opponent looks like he's about to explode with rage. The Duke's coachman angrily scolds the inexperienced driver, reminding him of the importance of their trip to the Crown Prince. The young man timidly asks which house his formidable interlocutor is from. The coachman points to the Cairn House crest on the carriage, and the man in the hat turns pale with horror. The unfortunate driver falls to his knees and tearfully begs for forgiveness. Skyla watches the unfolding commotion with bewilderment. Suddenly, the heroine notices that the stranger has an earring in the shape of a magic stone. Unlike the magical kingdom of Hevnia, mages are a rarity in the Empire. The same man from the recent skirmish recognizes Skyla and points his finger at her in horror. Skyla lashes out at the offender in a rage, reminding him of her warning. The man falls to the ground in panic, screaming his lady's name and lamenting his terrible crime. The boy, with tears in his eyes, begs for mercy, remembering his pet rabbit. Skyla looks at him coldly, and he realizes with horror that he mistook the formidable lady of House Cairn for a commoner. Suddenly, a mysterious stranger appears and apologizes for what happened. The young man with silver hair assumes that their coachman is to blame for everything. The golden-eyed stranger scolds himself for hiring a cheap temporary cab. The guy offers Skyla his deepest apologies for wasting the noblewoman's time. The young man introduces himself as Viscount Artesina and asks whether it is indeed Lady Cairn in front of him. Skyla is surprised to see the Viscount's handsome appearance. The heroine mentally compares him with Lansher, noting that the Viscount is inferior to him. The girl immediately pulls herself together, not understanding why she suddenly remembered her childhood friend. The Viscount looks at Skyla, recognizing her as the woman rumored to be there. The guy covers his mouth with his hand in embarrassment, feeling how she is driving him crazy. A burning desire to make this girl his own flashes through his thoughts. Skyla, noticing his gaze, coldly asks him to drive the carriage away, as she needs to go. The heroine calls Febreze, and they pass by the frozen Viscount. Febreze quietly addresses his mistress, getting her attention. Viscount Artesina asks with a smile what should be done with his coachman. Skyla indifferently replies that he should do as he sees fit. The coachman, in a panic, begs for mercy, fearing he will be left without work and a lonely bed. The Viscount, with a grin, offers the offender to give up his rights to drive the carriage. The guy with the icy gaze repeats his demand, leaving the coachman no choice. Skyla sighs as she realizes that everyone in the Cairn household has become accustomed to Lansher's magic. The heroine understands that without a license, the coachman will not be able to work, but this seems like a mercy to her compared to prison. The girl calmly gets into the carriage, preparing for the upcoming meeting at the palace. Viscount Artesina suddenly calls out to Lady Cairn, attracting her attention. The young man, with a charming smile, announces that now he has no one to drive the carriage. The young man formally introduces himself as the Empire's court mage, and Skyla notes his naturalness. The guy offers to give her a ride to the Imperial Palace with a smile. In the Viscount's carriage, they sit opposite each other, and Febreze moves closer unnoticed. Viscount Artesina asks with interest if Lady Cairn is on her way to meet the Crown Prince. Skyla is surprised by his knowledge and is suspicious that he seems like a dangerous person. The young magician reassures her with a smile, saying that it is nothing serious. The heroine looks at him skeptically, not understanding how one can trust a man who only cares about face and status. The Viscount explains that he heard her coachman speak of a possible punishment if she was late for the Crown Prince. The guy curiously asks if she often communicates with the Crown Prince. Skyla changes the subject and asks what brings the Viscount himself to the Imperial Palace, to which he replies, in a word, catnip. The young man asks with a smile to skip the formalities and call him simply by his first name. The girl agrees with a smile, and the guy thinks that he would like to remain in her memory, even if it is only a name. Skyla notes with a grin the Viscount's unusual name, Catnip. Catnip admits that it does sound like a pseudonym. The guy confirms the rumors about the girl's insight, hiding his face behind a dark bandage. The heroine appears as a reaper of high society, ready to pass judgment. Skyla is irritated and doesn't understand where such crazy rumors about her come from. Catnip explains his unusual name by his origins in the kingdom of Hevnia. Skyla asks with interest if he was a nobleman of Hevnia, where aristocrats are born with magical powers. The young man confirms her knowledge, and a shadow flashes in his eyes. The girl admits with a smile that she is very interested in magic. Catnip tenses, sensing that the conversation is taking a dangerous turn. The guy confirms his noble origins, but internally curses himself. He can't believe Skyla doesn't know about his grandmother serving the Demon King. The heroine says the word witch in shock, and fear can be seen in her eyes. Skyla is confused, trying to remember if the witches weren't exterminated during the war with the demons. Catnip, surrounded by a magical aura, demands to know what her true nature is. He warns that depending on her answer, his magic could harm her. Skyla looks at him defiantly and calmly suggests that he try. The Viscount was stunned by this reaction, not expecting such a rebuff at all. He remembers that Cairn is one of the most powerful houses in the Empire, and its heir will not flinch from the threat. Catnip, realizing his mistake, apologizes and extinguishes his magical aura. Catnip, with a sly smile, explains that his origin is a secret that must not be revealed. Skyla calmly asks if he is going to kill her. The girl reminds him that attacking a nobleman in the Empire is a grave crime. The heroine coldly cuts him off, saying that they are not close enough to resort to familiarity. The Viscount, confused, tries to justify himself by saying that he did not intend to kill her. The guy sheepishly explains that he just wanted to adjust her dress a little. Skyla pushes him away in anger, calling him a deranged pervert. Catnip grabs her hand, begging her to wait a second. The young man, in despair, asks the lady not to reveal his secret. Otherwise, he will be in danger. Lancher suddenly appears, puts his hand on Skyla's shoulder, and says that everything is okay now. The guy suggests that his girlfriend scold him later, making it clear that he is on her side. Skyla looks at him in surprise, not intending to say anything. The heroine thinks with relief that she is glad that Lancher has appeared. The young man angrily asks if that son of a bitch hurt her. Skyla is shocked that Lancher swears for the first time in his life. Catnip, with horror, recognizes his opponent as a blonde magician. Lancher sends the Viscount flying with a powerful blow, ordering him to never touch Skyla again. Catnip panics and tries to say something, but is enveloped in dark magic. Lancher, with icy calm, states that this is not a warning. The hero turns to Skyla, and to make sure, asks her a question. Skyla asks in horror if Lancher just killed the mage. The guy regretfully apologizes to his girlfriend, seeing her frightened face. The young man, with puppyish innocence, asks whether he should have killed the Viscount after all. Skyla breathes a sigh of relief, and Lancher admits that he was afraid of her hatred. The girl inquires about the fate of the magician, and Lancher casually informs her that he threw him into the trash. Skyla thanks her childhood friend for protecting her with a sincere smile. Lancher presses his hand to his chest in embarrassment, charmed by her gratitude. The heroine, with a sly smile, demands to know why the hell he ended up in her carriage. The young man, confused, tries to collect his thoughts to answer in one sentence. Lancher, with a sweet smile and a heart-shaped gesture, admits that he likes her very much. Skyla angrily fights off his latest attempt at confession. The heroine thoughtfully ponders how Lancher managed to find them, although throwing out the Viscount was a good idea. The girl suspiciously asks if the guy turned into a butterfly to follow her. Lancher asks innocently if she likes honest men. The young man proudly declares that thanks to him, they got rid of that magician. Skyla appreciates his help, but she still senses something is wrong. The heroine wearily asks him to return home, not wanting to continue this conversation. Lancher asks worriedly if she is angry with him. The girl with a steely gaze orders him to leave immediately. The guy leaves sadly, quietly saying that he just wanted to see her smile. Lancher tenderly asks what he can do to make Skyla happy. The guy admits that he doesn't know how to express his feelings, but his look says it all. Febreze interrupts them, announcing their arrival at the palace, and Skyla returns to reality. The heroine learns that Lancher disappeared with the help of magic, citing a bunch of things to do. The coachman admires the magic, and Febreze is angry that he climbed into the carriage like a parasite. At the entrance to the palace, they are met by a guard, who formally welcomes Lady Skyla. The young guard shyly invites her to pass. Not daring to look at her, Skyla follows him, wondering what to do with Lancher. The girl realizes that the safety of the family is above all else. She understands that Lancher's entry into the carriage could lead to legal trouble. The guard is acting very strangely, and Skyla doesn't understand what's wrong with him. The boy is horrified when he recalls rumors that she killed the Scarlet Goat Demon with one glance. Skyla is perplexed, trying to figure out where this crap about a high society reaper came from. The heroine is shocked that the rumor has become overgrown with such absurd details, reminiscent of the myth of the founding of the state. The guard stutters to say they have arrived. Skyla looks around the luxurious decoration of the palace, noting that everything is done expensively and richly. The girl thinks ironically that all the taxes were apparently poured into this place. The maid informs her that His Highness the Crown Prince is already waiting for her. The Crown Prince appears and greets his guest with a smile. The Crown Prince looks at Lady Skyla with interest, and their eyes meet. Skyla smiles and remarks how handsome the Crown Prince is, and says she is honored. The heroine finally understands why Aronia described the Crown Prince so well. The Crown Prince stumbles, and Skyla wonders with horror if he needs help getting up. The guy awkwardly apologizes, adjusting his boot. The Crown Prince explains with a smile his tendency to trip over everything he can, and Skyla is perplexed. The Crown Prince asks if the person behind her is a servant, and Skyla confirms it. The guy apologizes and says that the maid will have to wait outside. They sit down at the table, and the Crown Prince thanks Skyla for her time. Skyla politely replies that it is a great honor for her, but in her mind she compares him to Lancher. The Crown Prince agrees that this is indeed the case. The Crown Prince invites her to try the tea supplied exclusively to the royal family. The guy assumes that she is probably wondering why he called her. The Crown Prince explains that he needs her help. Skyla promises with a smile to do her best to help His Majesty, but inside she is indignant. The Crown Prince approvingly says that she is truly worthy of becoming the next Duchess of Cairn. The Crown Prince suddenly asks if she will become his bride. Skyla is in complete shock, unable to believe what she heard. The heroine asks him again, with a nervous smile, what he just said. The guy repeats with a smile that he wants her to become his bride. Skyla is furious and wondering what the hell is going on here. Skyla is confused as to what the Crown Prince wants, and assumes he is looking for a bride without influence. The Crown Prince recalls that in high society, she is known as a reaper. The guy can hardly contain his laughter, covering his face with his hand. The Crown Prince can't help but burst into laughter, apologizing to Skyla. The Crown Prince, stumbling again, apologizes for his clumsiness, and Skyla notes that it shows. The heroine decides to get down to business and asks him directly why he chose her as his bride. The Crown Prince sheepishly admits that he has learned something about her. The boy says that in the Empire, they call her the most hot-tempered noble lady, and Skyla can hardly contain her anger. The Crown Prince, smiling, promises to break off the engagement within a year. Skyla is confused, not understanding what her temper has to do with it. The girl, with horror, assumes that he has some kind of fetish for cruel women. The heroine imagines herself as a mistress with a whip, and him as a submissive servant. The Crown Prince, noticing her reaction, assures her that this is not what he expects from her. The guy explains that he simply assumed she wasn't interested in lovemaking. The Crown Prince says that at the upcoming ball, he must choose the next Crown Princess, without whom he will not be able to inherit the throne. Skyla listens carefully, realizing that there is a serious reason behind his proposal. The Crown Prince explains that he was trained from childhood to become an emperor. Now he is told that without a partner, he cannot become one, and he considers this unfair. Skyla remembers her lonely childhood and realizes that the Crown Prince is in the same situation as she is. The Crown Prince looks at her with hope, thinking that she is the one who can understand him. Skyla agrees with a smile, realizing that she will be able to inherit the title even if she becomes Crown Princess. The Crown Prince proposes to maintain the engagement for a year so that both can receive their titles, and then to break it off. The Crown Prince smiles and asks her to try not to fall in love with him, as romance is not his thing. Skyla thinks with relief that with her sense of duty, this only makes things easier. Leaving the palace, the heroine orders the coachman to go to Duke Solly. Skyla sits in anticipation, wondering if she should cheer Lancher up after recent events. Fabrice asks curiously what she had been talking about with His Highness for so long. The girl replies that it's nothing special, but secretly decides to take this secret with her to the grave. She imagines how the crown prince will behave at the ball, as if he fell in love with her at first sight. He will then publicly propose to her by getting down on one knee, and a year later they will break off the engagement, and each will get what they wanted. Skyla realizes with a satisfied smile that the solution had been right there all along. Fabrice thinks with admiration that her lady is the woman who made the crown prince himself fall before her. The maid, with tears in her eyes, dreams that she will die happy if she sees her mistress become empress. At the Solly estate, they are met by the butler, who informs them that the Duke and Duchess have left on an inspection tour. Skyla decides to visit them another time and gets ready to leave. Already in the reception area, she notices with surprise that Lancher is nowhere to be found. The heroine suspiciously thinks that, before he appeared next to her as soon as she crossed the threshold, the maid comes up to her and asks if she needs anything else. Skyla asks directly where Lancher is, and the maid is confused and doesn't know what to answer. The maid, confused, tries to explain that something is wrong with Lancher. Skyla asks him worriedly if something serious has happened to him. The heroine asks with bewilderment why he could be upset. The maid explains that he has been depressed since he returned from his walk after meeting with Milady. The maid panics and thinks that she cannot say that he has locked himself in his room and is not coming out. Skyla firmly declares that she will take her to Lancher and calm him down. The maid asks hopefully if she will really do it. The girl notes with a smile to herself what a devoted servant he has. The maid asks him to wait a minute and comes to the door of his room. Skyla is confused about how she can comfort him now. The maid knocks on the door, calling the young master. Lancher's irritated voice comes from behind the door, asking Rachel not to look for him. The heroine, with pain in her heart, asks if what she heard is true. Rachel is horrified to realize that he is ignoring even Skyla. The girl begins to panic, fearing that he will get confused in this matter and die. The maid despairs at the thought of her wedding with Mr. Austen, which may never take place. Lancher shouts again from behind the door, not to be looked for. Skyla is furious and demands that he open the door, or she will break in herself. The guy opens the door with a smile, asking who else but him would want to be around while she loses control. The heroine, embarrassed, quietly asks him to open the door. Lancher looks at Skyla hopefully, not believing that it is really her in front of him. The guy hugs her, thinking that it is just an illusion created by his desire to see her. The heroine looks at him silently, not understanding what is happening. She recalls that Lancher rarely lost his composure, but when he did, his magic became uncontrollable. The young man asks again if it is really Skyla in front of him, gently touching her hair. The girl realizes that only next to her could he calm down in such moments. A young man unexpectedly asks her out with the prospect of marriage, but she rudely refuses. Lancher sadly asks if she hates him. Skyla replies with a grin that she has no reason to hate him. She guesses that he hid in the carriage in the form of a butterfly to surprise her. The heroine admits that it was wrong to interfere without permission, but thanks him for driving away that magician. Lancher asks excitedly if she really thinks so, and if he did the right thing. The guy hugs her with relief, glad that he didn't make her angry. Skyla wonders if it's okay to leave things like this without her around. She remembers her childhood friend, another great mage, whose face is clouded with darkness. That magician died the year he turned 16. The girl is terrified that the moment will come when Lancher will not be able to cope with his emotions. The guy tenderly asks her if she could stay with him today. The heroine ironically asks what answer he is hoping for, realizing that this is just his fantasy. Lancher asks with disappointment if that means no. Skyla asks with a grin why he even thought she would agree. Lancher reminds him that they used to sleep together often, but she dismisses it, saying that was 100 years ago. The heroine scolds him, saying that they are already adults, and he should understand what it means for a man and a woman to spend the night at their age. The guy hugs her with a beaming smile, completely missing the hint. Lancher excitedly declares that this means they are very close friends, which drives Skyla crazy. The girl pushes him away in a rage, explaining that she cannot stay with him because of the risk of rumors and a broken engagement. Lancher freezes in shock when she hears the word engaged. Skyla is horrified to realize that she has let it slip, and now he might find out about her fake engagement. Lancher asks, pain in his voice, if this means the engagement date was set without even asking him. The guy gently takes her hands and promises to make every effort to be with her. The young man, smiling, offers her the witch's magic stone as a gift for their engagement. Skyla is panicking and doesn't understand what kind of engagement he's even talking about. The heroine reminds him that this stone is a sacred relic of the kingdom of Hevnia, hinting at a refusal. Lancher, perplexed, asks if they are not engaged, and she firmly denies it. The girl turns to the maid, preparing to leave, but she stops her. Skyla looks at the maid in surprise, not understanding what is happening. The maid sadly reports that the Duke and Duchess are absent today. The maid explains that everyone is a little scared by the young master's magical emissions. Skyla asks point-blank if she's asking her to stay the night. The girl apologizes sheepishly, and Skyla sighs and agrees. Skyla agrees to stay, and the maid and Lancher are delighted. The heroine, smiling, clarifies that she will remain in a separate room from Lancher. The girl sends Fabers home to explain the situation to her parents. The maid is angry that because of this upstart from Solly's house, she will not be able to see her mistress fall asleep. Skyla takes the nightgown and is surprised to see that for the first time, Lancher is not being stubborn. The guy says with delight that it is enough for him to just sleep in the room next to hers. Lancher, with a beaming smile, says he has something to show her before bed. He proudly announces that he will show her his diary. Outside his room, a maid reports that Lord Lancher is still in the bathroom. Skyla takes the diary and thinks with a grin that it's cute because only she can read it. The girl opens the diary to the entry from December 31st, 1815, where he writes about his first confession to her. The heroine recalls that day with sadness, holding a diary in her hands. Skyla lay on the floor feeling lonely while her parents were traveling. Lancher suddenly appeared with a cup in his hands and asked worriedly if she was okay. The guy sat down next to her and reminded her about his older brother's imminent marriage. The young man said sadly that he envied his brother, who would be with the one he loved every day. The young man suddenly asked her if she wanted to marry him. Skyla was shocked by his proposal, not understanding what he was getting at. The girl asked in bewilderment why he suddenly started talking about this. The heroine realized with surprise and embarrassment that Lancher might be in love with her. Lancher asks hopefully if she likes him. Skyla is surprised that he is here and not at a social reception in his duchy. The guy explains that no one will notice his absence, and the girl sadly thinks that his family is getting together. The heroine remembers with longing her parents, who are now far away. Lancher excitedly offers her a cake to try, trying to distract her from her sad thoughts. Skyla notes with a smile that she likes the food from her duchy better. The girl advises him not to linger, so that the guests do not consider him impolite. Lancher sadly says that no one talks to him anyway, because they are afraid of him. Skyla fondly thinks that he is actually a good person. The heroine mentions that a magician from the kingdom of Hevnia is staying at her house, and he finds him very interesting. Lancher jealously declares that he is only interested in her. Skyla berates herself, embarrassed, for mentioning another man. The guy asks sadly why he can't only care about the one he likes. The heroine whispers in his ear how he can say such things calmly when they can be heard. The girl shyly asks him to say such things only when they are alone. Lancher asks in surprise if this means that confessing one's love can only be done in private. After meeting the mage from Hevnia that Lancher mentioned, everything changed. Lancher appears in her room wearing only a robe, and she is shocked to ask what this appearance is. The guy explains that he teleported out of fear of keeping her waiting. The young man, with a gentle smile, invites her to lie down too. Skyla is horrified that Lancher doesn't understand what it means for a man and a woman to share a bed. The boy remembers with a smile their childhood argument about who would fall asleep first. The heroine, already falling asleep, mutters that he always lost. Lancher confidently declares that he will definitely win this time. The girl suspiciously asks if he cast some kind of spell to win. The young man tenderly replies that he cannot fall asleep when she is lying next to him. Skyla asks in surprise if he's going to sleep in that robe. Lancher says innocently that he usually sleeps without anything at all. The heroine is shocked by his confession, not believing her ears. The girl panics and wonders when he developed such indecent habits. Skyla is furious and demands that he put on his pajamas right now. The guy sheepishly agrees, and she, burying her face in the pillow, tries to calm down. Lansher returns dressed, and Skyla scolds herself for blushing at the sight of his bare skin. The young man leans towards her, reminding her that he has fulfilled her request. The young man asks her to stay with him a little longer, and they lie down next to each other. When Skyla wakes up in the morning, she realizes with horror that Lansher is still here. The girl notices that he gave her all the blankets. The heroine looks at the sleeping guy with affection and thinks that it is not surprising that he has a cold. Suddenly, a maid bursts in screaming that Lady Skyla is missing, and the heroine looks at her with a sly smile. The maid, seeing them together, wishes them a good time, but Skyla, in a panic, tries to stop her. Rachel peers out from behind the door, worried, not understanding what is happening. Skyla screams in rage that everything is not as it seems while Lansher lies in bed. The guy stretches sweetly and asks with a smile if she slept well. Rachel is shocked by what she saw, and Skyla is panicking and trying to explain everything. The heroine, with a nervous smile, tries to convince Lansher to play along and say that they were just chatting until late. The young man agrees with a sly smile, saying that it was great. Skyla angrily orders Rachel not to tell anyone what she saw. The girl threatens that if strange rumors begin to spread, she will impose a marriage ban on all servants of the Duke of Cairn's house. Rachel is horrified to realize that she will not be able to marry her beloved. Skyla pins her against the wall, reminding her of her favor. The heroine apologizes to the maid, but firmly states that her plan will not tolerate interference. Returning home, Skyla thinks about her upcoming engagement to the Crown Prince. The girl walks down the corridor, thinking about her personal fortune of 30 million francs. Skyla asks Fabrice with a smile where her mother is. Meanwhile, the Duchess is playing tag with her husband in the garden. Fabrice and Skyla watch this scene with stony faces. The Duchess complains of back pain, and the Duke suggests a trip to the hot springs. Skyla listens to their saccharine conversations with disgust, unable to bear it. The heroine thinks with sadness about the sins for which she is forced to live with this every day. The girl suddenly calls out to her parents, and they fall to the ground in shock. Mother reproachfully says that it is impolite to enter without knocking, but Skyla replies that there is no door. The Duchess asks what brings her here, and her daughter asks for help. The woman is shocked by such a request, and the father offers his help in her place. The Duke asks with a grin if she would like to return his duties as acting Duke to him. The mother is delighted that her daughter turned to her and is ready to help. Skyla asks with a smile to be made the most beautiful woman at the royal ball. The heroine announces that she has decided to find her future husband there, which shocks her parents. The girl explains that she needs to tell them about the engagement so that they will accept it calmly. The father is perplexed, not understanding why his daughter suddenly changed her mind so abruptly. The mother proudly asks if she knows what she was called in the old days. The Duchess breaks her fan in anger, remembering her nickname, the goddess of social events. In her prime, she broke the hearts of all the young noble bachelors. The mother grabs her daughter and enthusiastically says that they are leaving behind an upset husband. In the dressing room, the woman asks if her daughter needs more money for expenses. The Duchess is horrified by the sight of her daughter's modest dresses and does not understand why they look that way. Skyla wonders who the best dressmaker is now, but it turns out that Madame Beasley's is booked until the day of the ball. The girl confidently declares that there is nothing that cannot be solved with money, but her mother warns her not to ruin her career as a dressmaker. Skyla understands that her first goal is to not give her opponents a trump card. The heroine despairs when she thinks that she has nothing to wear to the ball. The mother explains that the other ladies have already ordered their dresses, as the invitations were sent out a month ago. Skyla says with confidence that there is no problem that cannot be solved with money. She assumes that most people will come in heavy and flashy dresses, which are currently in fashion. The mother looks at her doubtfully, not understanding what she is getting at. Skyla, with a beaming smile, declares that if they can't get fashionable dresses, then fashion itself needs to change. The maids in the corridor are whispering about some secret. One of them says that someone secretly leaves boxes of fashionable dresses at the houses of commoners. Another confirms that her cousin also received the same dress that only nobles wear. Suddenly, Skyla appears, and the maids freeze in fear when they see her wearing that very dress. The maids apologize in horror, fearing punishment for their gossip. Skyla smiles and says that she will give them each one of these dresses. The heroine, with a sly smile, asks them to wear these dresses with dignity. Unlike commoners, nobles, seeing a new fashion, will begin to follow it. Skyla presents a shimmering blue dress that will set a new trend. The girl thinks about her plan with a satisfied look, because she bought all the dresses and gave them away so that even the tramps would be dressed in the latest fashion. Fabrizi says it's time to get ready. Skyla decides to skip dinner and take a bath first. The maid combs her hair tenderly, thinking how soft it is. The heroine says that she has no time for entertainment today, as she is going to the royal ball. Lancher appears and excitedly asks if she will dance with him at the ball. Skyla is shocked by his appearance and asks if he is also going to the royal ball. Skyla realizes with horror that she has forgotten something important. The girl remembers that Lancher is the son of the Minister of State and the Empress's advisor, which means he was also invited to the ball. Lancher excitedly asks if she will dance with him first, and Skyla panics. The heroine refuses, explaining that she already has someone in mind, hinting at the crown prince. Skyla says there will be a lot of people at the ball, and she would like to remain in the shadows, but Lancher suggests casting a sleeping spell on everyone. The guy excitedly prepares to perform a spell to reduce the number of people coming to the ball, and Skyla, horrified, begs him not to do it. At this moment, a maid appears and announces that the bath for my lady is ready. Skyla asks irritably if he needs anything else. Lancher says seriously that he wants to dance with her. The girl doesn't understand why he needs this, and he explains that she is incredibly popular. The guy asks her hopefully if she ever liked him. Skyla is confused and trying to sort out her feelings for him. The heroine has difficulty admitting to herself that she cannot answer this question. Her thoughts flash back to a conversation with a mysterious man who warns of the consequences if Lancher fails to control her feelings. This person asks what she will do in such a situation. He asks with a smile if she can choose not to love for the sake of love. That is why he left everything as it was, without making her either too happy or too unhappy. Skyla tries to leave, saying she's busy, but Lancher blocks her way. The guy hopefully asks if maybe when she is not busy, she might like him. The heroine sadly apologizes and says that it looks like she will be busy until her death. Lancher accepts his 321st defeat with a smile. The parents are delighted with their daughter's beauty, calling her a national treasure. Skyla sheepishly asks them to stop, promising to try to find a husband. The mother asks if she has an invitation, and Skyla replies that Tisif has it. The heroine says that she will not stay, but her parents allow her to stay, happy for the opportunity to be together. Skyla, horrified, decides to leave early to avoid their saccharine affection. The girl hurriedly gets into the carriage, ordering it to leave immediately. Already on the way, she asks Fabrez how she likes her velvet dress. The maid enthusiastically replies that it is perfect, and that in her next life she would like to become its mirror. Skyla thinks about her plan with satisfaction, knowing that velvet is not yet known at the imperial court. Fabreze asks her to wait a minute, noticing something. The maid informs them that they will have to wait about an hour. They see ahead a whole line of carriages heading to the imperial ball. Skyla sighs, thinking that nothing can be done, and is glad that she is not in a corset. Fabrice invites her to go out for a walk, but she refuses because of her high heels. Suddenly, she hears someone calling her name. Aronia drives up to her carriage and asks in surprise if she would open the window. Skyla thinks with irritation that it's easy to bully when you know you can't be avoided. The heroine remembers how Aronia humiliated her at the tea party and orders Fabrez to open the door for her. Aronia greets him with a sweet smile, saying that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Skyla thinks with irritation that she and Aronia clash too often. Aronia says with disdain that she is used to acting as if she is better than others. The girl asks with a grin if this is the dress she appeared in, hinting that even commoners wouldn't wear something like that. Skyla turns coldly to Lady Aronia, asking what she wants. Fabrice asks her defiantly if she knows how commoners live these days. Skyla sternly tells her that instead of giggling at her home, she should be interested in the lives of ordinary people. Aronia looks at her with disdain, not understanding what this conversation is about. The girl asks condescendingly why she should care about vile commoners. Skyla explains with a smile that she showed up in the outfit they wear and looks disgusting. Aronia is shocked by her words, and Skyla asks with a grin if she knows what velvet is. The heroine proudly declares that this dress costs about 100,000 francs. Aronia is horrified by this amount, realizing that this is her family's monthly income. Skyla watches with satisfaction as her rival finally goes silent. The girl is relieved to think that this annoying person has finally left. Meanwhile, the coachman is frantically searching for the lost invitation. The man recalls taking off his outerwear when he felt hot, and the invitation must have fallen out. Skyla is horrified to suspect that Aronia might have stolen the invitation. The heroine asks Fabrez to open the window, and they drive up to the palace gates. The girl apologizes with a smile for keeping them waiting. Skyla explains that the coachman accidentally lost the invitation, but she can verify her identity with the family seal on the carriage. The guard at the gate apologizes, saying that the family seal won't work. Skyla is furious that she is not allowed into the palace. A girl with a headache thinks about the fact that the emperor has forbidden entry into the palace without an invitation. Viscount Artesina suddenly appears, surrounded by flowers. Skyla asks him with a flirtatious smile what brings him here. Ketnip explains that, as the court mage, he is responsible for letting the carriages through. The heroine is relieved to think that she has finally found someone with whom she can come to an agreement. The girl, hiding behind a fan, asks Viscount Artesina to let her into the palace. Skyla confidently says that she has power over his weakness and asks him not to force her to repeat it. Ketnip laughs sheepishly, admitting that she has a knack for creating awkward situations. The guy says with a smile that her coldness also has its own charm. Skyla is confused as to why his attraction to her is growing. Ketnip orders the guards to open the gates for Princess Cairn. The guard, horrified, tries to object, reminding him of the Emperor's order. Skyla takes responsibility, and the Viscount is exiled from the Kingdom of Hevnia. Ketnip says that as ordered, he will take her to the palace. The guy reminds her with a smile that she now owes him something and offers to dance with him at the ball. Skyla smiles and advises him to be careful with such proposals. Inside the palace, she meets Lancher and asks why he is not with his parents. The guy replies that he had been waiting for her for about 5 hours already. Lancher says with a beaming smile that he never gets bored when he thinks about her. Skyla is touched that he waited for her for so long and gently takes his hand. The guests at the ball admire them, saying that they are so perfect for each other. Skyla happily notes that everyone is delighted with her new dress. The heroine is surprised to notice that one person did not react to her outfit in any way. The girl curiously asks Lancher if he wants to tell her anything. Lancher enthusiastically confesses his love to her again, but she says that is not what she meant. Skyla asks, feigning disappointment, if he couldn't have said something like, "You look especially beautiful today." The guy gently touches her face and asks if she wanted to hear that she has become even more beautiful. The young man says with a smile that he doesn't know how much more beautiful she can be, and Skyla is embarrassed. Lancher explains that she has a ladybug stuck in her hair, and Skyla breathes a sigh of relief. The heroine covers her face with her hands in panic, not understanding why she still has such feelings for Lancher. Skyla despairs, thinking she's gone crazy, and Lancher looks at her in bewilderment. The girl looks at her rival with irritation, not understanding how she is not tired of this. Aronia and her friends disdainfully discuss Skyla, who, in their opinion, has already won Lord Lancher. The heroine does not understand why Aronia hates her so much, although they hardly know each other. Skyla decides to leave and invites Lancher to come with her. Aronia, with a caustic smile, invites them to chat. Skyla coldly replies that she has nothing to say to them and asks them not to pretend to be close. Aronia, with a sly smile, suggests that they may have lost the invitation to the ball. Skyla is irritated that she and Aronia are running into each other too often and suspects that this is all a setup. The heroine understands with a grin that her rival is trying to win on the basis of her personality, not her merits. The girl, with a sly smile, says that she represents the Duke of Cairn, and she does not need such a trifle as an invitation. Aronia is shocked by her impudence, not expecting such an answer. The opponent angrily shouts that this is extremely rude, but she is interrupted. Lancher asks with a cold gaze if she can't see. The guy calmly says that Skyla is clearly uncomfortable with her. Lancher, with icy calm, orders her to get away from Skyla immediately. Skyla notices the same unfamiliar feeling in his gaze as during the incident with Artesina. The guy with a beaming smile asks if he did well. The young man proudly says that he drove away these ladies because Skyla didn't like them, and he didn't even have to use magic. Lancher gently takes her hand and asks her to praise him. He hands her something, and Skyla looks at his hand with concern. The heroine is afraid that everything could collapse at any moment, because he still believes that he likes her. At the ball, the arrival of His Highness the Crown Prince is announced. One of the ladies faints from his beauty, turning into a pile of ashes. Skyla is puzzled to think that he is not handsome enough to react like that. Lancher asks with concern if something is wrong. The girl replies that it's nothing, but she wonders to herself whether she really thought he was more attractive. The heroine thinks with embarrassment that she must have imagined it when he called her name. Skyla panics as she sees the Crown Prince walking straight towards her. The guests whisper, not understanding why the Crown Prince is looking for Lady Skyla, and she herself is in shock. The heroine realizes with horror that everything is not going according to plan, because he was supposed to fall in love with her at first sight. The girls are confused as to whether the Crown Prince and Lady Cairn know each other, and Skyla is in despair. The Crown Prince is getting closer and closer, and Skyla thinks that everything is moving too fast. The heroine decides to pretend that she also fell in love with him at first sight. Lancher sadly asks her not to leave. The guy takes her hand and begs her to stay with him. Skyla turns to the Crown Prince with a nervous smile, trying to defuse the situation. The Crown Prince asks with a smile if he can ask her to dance. The girl sheepishly agrees, not knowing what to do. Lancher looks at the Crown Prince in surprise, not understanding what is happening. The guy asks defiantly if His Highness has a bad habit of stealing other people's partners. Skyla is completely shocked by his audacity, not believing her ears. The heroine mentally screams at Lancher, not understanding if he has gone crazy. The girl is horrified to realize that he is saying this to the Crown Prince himself. The Crown Prince asks with a grin if he is Duke Solly's son. Lancher asks him to step aside with cold politeness. The boy, surrounded by a magical aura, repeats his request to move away from Skyla. The Crown Prince says with irritation that he has crossed all boundaries. Lancher's older brother, Hovabat, appears and calls him his favorite little brother, with a smile. Hovabat apologizes to the Crown Prince for his young brother's behavior. Skyla is surprised to hear the name of Lancher's older brother. Hovabat greets Skyla with a smile, saying that they haven't seen each other for a long time. The older brother scolds Lancher for his behavior, fearing problems for their family. Lancher panics and begs Skyla to save him, but she only closes her eyes tiredly. The heroine coldly asks Lancher to step aside. The guy sadly says that he doesn't like what she's doing now. The girl looks at him with a determined expression, making it clear that her patience is running out. Skyla takes the Crown Prince's hand and invites him to dance. The Crown Prince says with a grin that he has heard many rumors that she is a terrible dancer. The Crown Prince assumes that these rumors are being spread by her friends, and Skyla denies it with a smile. The girl says with slight irony that he probably misheard. She says with a smile that she has no friends, and they start dancing. The guests at the ball admire her dress, and the Crown Prince notices that she is not even wearing a corset. One of the ladies enviously wonders if it would be appropriate to ask Lady Cairn about the fabric for her dress. The Crown Prince notices that Skyla's thoughts have wandered to another, and sadly wonders if he is really that unattractive. The girl assures him that it is an honor for her to simply dance with him. She confirms with a smile that this is true. The Crown Prince notes with regret that her words about having no friends turned out to be a lie. The Crown Prince notices that Lancher looked like he was about to shoot fire from his eyes. Skyla apologizes on his behalf, but the Crown Prince doesn't understand why she's doing this. The heroine replies with a smile that she is his friend. The Crown Prince says he doesn't want anything to go wrong, but she assures him it's unlikely to be Lancher's fault. The girl notes that he immediately began looking for her as soon as he entered the ballroom, and this already aroused suspicion. The Crown Prince is silent, and Skyla turns to him in surprise. The heroine is surprised to realize that for the first time, she enjoys ordinary conversation. She thinks with relief that she couldn't hear his thoughts like before. The Crown Prince interrupts the dance, and she is confused. Skyla apologizes in a panic, scared that she suddenly heard his thought. The Crown Prince reassures her by saying that he has a tendency to fall. The guy offers to convince everyone that they really did fall in love at first sight. The guests at the ball have already noticed their mutual interest, and Skyla is embarrassed. The heroine irritably asks him to let her go. The girl repeats her request, not wanting anything to go wrong. The Crown Prince seriously says that he likes her, and Skyla is shocked. The Crown Prince gently touches her face and suggests that they put on a real show. The guy asks defiantly how she dares to look at him with such an expression on her face. Skyla replies ironically that apparently her standards are too high. The Crown Prince says with a smile that dancing with her gave him real pleasure. The Crown Prince says that requests for a dance should be made directly through the ducal house. A man approaches Skyla and timidly calls her by name. The heroine understands that someone must have egged him on to ask her to dance. The girl wonders with irritation whether they have decided to make a laughing stock of her. The young man hopefully asks Lady Skyla to honor him with at least one dance, but she refuses. The guy is shocked by her refusal, not understanding how she could turn him down so suddenly. Skyla calmly explains that His Highness the Crown Prince will not like this. She understands that it is better to make an official statement and dispel all doubts. Enthusiastic ladies run up to her, admiring her dance with His Highness. The girls surround her, and Skyla is confused and doesn't know what to do now. One of the ladies invites her to join them for a cup of tea. Skyla notices them looking at her velvet dress with curiosity. Her eyes show an understanding of their true motives. She realizes that these people did not come for sincere compliments, but to find out what's what. The girls are persistently inviting her, and Skyla thinks with irritation how clingy they are. Viscount Artesina suddenly appears and says that he and the lady have urgent business. Ketnip introduces himself with a smile as the royal magician, and the ladies are delighted. The girls are delighted to have met a real magician. The guy says he needs to discuss something with Lady Cairn and asks to steal her for a while. The Viscount smiles and invites Skyla to come with him, and she follows him. Skyla thanks the Viscount for his help. Ketnip asks, confused, why she's looking at him like that. The guy says she is incredibly beautiful. He adds that today she is especially beautiful because she usually acts as if she is about to throw him to the ground. Ketnip admits that her sudden softness leaves him confused. The young man asks to keep the secret of his origin a secret. Skyla smiles and promises not to reveal his secret, swearing on the honor of House Cairn. The Viscount asks in surprise why she is doing this. The girl ironically asks if he would prefer that she shout about it to everyone she meets. Ketnip sheepishly says that's not what he meant. Skyla notices his confusion and jumbled thoughts. The guy says with admiration that she is really kind, even though now is not the best time. He asks if taking advantage of someone else's weakness isn't kindness. The heroine understandably replies that everyone has secrets that they would not like to reveal. Ketnip looks at her in surprise, not expecting such wisdom. Skyla says with slight irritation that she doesn't care who is the witch's descendant and who is her grandfather. The Viscount admits that he seems to have underestimated her. He explains that he judged her by empty rumors and thought that she shamelessly exploited other people's weaknesses. Skyla sheepishly thinks he's forgotten how she did take advantage of his weakness a little. Ketnip sincerely asks for forgiveness, bowing to her. Ketnip apologizes, saying that she kindly allowed him to ride in her carriage, and he, the scoundrel, threatened her. The guy asks hopefully if she can forgive him. Skyla replies with a smile that since he opened the palace gates for her, they are even. The Viscount is surprised to learn that she has a magic stone and says that, according to legend, it can be used to make anyone fall in love with her. The young man notes with regret that she seems to have this stone. Ketnip shyly asks her to call him by his name. Skyla coldly reminds him that they are not that close. The Viscount looks at her in surprise and notices Lady Cairn. The heroine thinks with irritation, didn't she ask him to be more careful with his tricks? The girl remembers that he had already threatened her once and does not believe in his sincerity. The guy, realizing his mistake, apologizes and is about to leave. Skyla is surprised at how easily he backed down. Unlike Lancher, the heroine notices the rare golden color of his eyes. Ketnip asks with a flirtatious smile if she likes his face. The guy invites her to take a closer look at him if she wants. Skyla realizes with irritation that he is not going to back down. The girl thinks with a grin that he is even more persistent than Lancher. The heroine says that if they have nothing more to talk about, she will leave. The Viscount, in a panic, asks how she plans to return to the ballroom and deal with all the society ladies. Ketnip reminds her with a smile that he is a mage and can teleport her straight to the carriage. Skyla grins and suggests that he take her straight to the Duchy of Kirin, since he is so strong. The girl asks defiantly if this is a problem for him. Ketnip explains with a smile that the palace is surrounded by powerful protective magic, and it is impossible to pass through it. The heroine says with a satisfied look that Lancher did it. The Viscount is confused, and she, without waiting for an answer, is about to leave. The guy, with tears in his eyes, says that he would have brought her home in a much more charming way than just a carriage. He smiles and tells her to watch carefully and begins to cast a spell. A cute gray cat appears, and Skyla is surprised to realize it is Viscount Artesina. The heroine remembers that transformation magic is a unique skill of witches, which even Lancher is not capable of. Catnip, in the form of a cat, hopes that now the lady will think that he is cute, and offers to take her after the ball in the form of a butterfly. Skyla thinks with disdain that this guy has no pride at all. The girl says with a cold look that she doesn't see any need for this. The cat is shocked by her reaction and angrily calls her a soulless doll and an ice block. Skyla thanks him for demonstrating rare magic and gets ready to leave. Suddenly, some people appear and shout in panic that she can't just barge in here. A drunk lady appears and happily recognizes Skyla. The heroine asks suspiciously how much she drank. The man next to the drunk lady asks in surprise if they know each other. Skyla, holding the cat, asks him to leave, not wanting to make a scene. The girl claims she is not drunk, but the cat in her arms doubtfully thinks she is definitely drunk. A drunk lady with tears in her eyes screams that she hates Skyla. She asks in despair why the crown prince danced with her and not with her. Skyla coldly advises Lady Aronia to return to her room if she does not want to blush later. The heroine reminds her that she warned her before her business failed. Aronia screams in rage, asking if she knows what happened to her position in Garnet's house after that. Skyla answers with an indifferent look that she doesn't, and the cat in her arms confirms this. The rival says with disdain that Skyla has had everything served to her on a silver platter her entire life. Aronia, with tears in her eyes, confesses that she is the illegitimate daughter of the Marquis of Garnet. The girl explains that her mother was a servant in the Marquis's house, and Skyla listens to her with understanding. Aronia asks bitterly if she thinks the Marquis treated them with kindness. She recalls how her father only acknowledged her after the Marquis's death, and how her half-siblings treated her like trash. After the failure of her spice business, the Marquis locked her in the attic, and she thought she could improve her life if she attracted the attention of the crown prince. Aronia asks tearfully if she came to apologize, since she doesn't need all this. Skyla asks in surprise why she would apologize to her. The rival is shocked by her words, not believing her ears. The heroine says that her situation is, of course, sad, but she has nothing to do with it. Skyla says with a cold gaze that desperation is no excuse for stealing someone else's ball invitation. She notes that circumstances and misdeeds are two different things. The girl asks with disdain whether 50,000 francs was not enough. Skyla, holding the cat, reminds her that she gave her money for a new business and asks if she squandered it again. Aronia is confused by Skyla's generous offer. The heroine, with a cat in her arms, coldly tells her not to loom before her eyes. The girl advises her to sober up before returning and leaves. Skyla walks down the corridor with the cat in her arms and is met by surprised servants. Catnip, in the form of a cat, asks her with a sweet smile to take him home. One of the men looks at the cat with affection and says how cute he is. Skyla hands him the cat and offers to take it for himself. The man panics and refuses, not daring to take the lady's cat. Catnip hisses in rage and threatens to haunt him in his nightmares. The heroine thinks with irritation that it would be better if she threw him off the balcony. Skyla decides it's time to say hello to Lancher's family and head back, but first she needs to deal with the cat. The cat angrily asks if she tried to throw him at the servants. Catnip screams with tears in her eyes. How could she just give him to another man? And Skyla panics. The cat reproachfully says that many have already seen him in her arms, and if he suddenly disappears, people will ask if she abandoned him. The cat-like boy hopes that if he can go with her to the Cairn estate, he can stay with her as a pet. Skyla sighs and gives him permission to do whatever he wants. Other ladies approach her and say that they have been waiting for her. The heroine apologizes for her timid cat, but the ladies do not leave. The cat looks pleased and thinks that it turned out well, and Skyla, with a grin, understands that he can be useful. The girl thinks with irritation that she doesn't want to waste time chatting with annoying gossips. The girls discuss Lancher, admiring him, while Skyla looks at him with irritation. One of the ladies offers to invite him to dance. Skyla reminds him with surprise that he is famous for never dancing with anyone. The pink-haired girl says it's still worth a try, since he looks so lonely by the window. She indignantly asks how Lady Skyla could do this to him. Skyla is shocked by her words, not understanding what she means. One of the ladies says with disdain that Lady Skyla is simply terrible. Another one thinks sadly that poor Lord Lancher must be heartbroken. The pink-haired girl confidently declares that only she can heal his wounds. But Skyla advises her to volunteer at the hospital. She pulls her hand back in horror, afraid that Skyla is standing right behind her. The girl panics and apologizes, saying that she didn't notice her. Skyla says with a cold look that they shouldn't spread such gossip. She bitterly thinks that society sees her as a heartless villain, and Lancher as a tragic young aristocrat. The heroine defiantly asks where she saw Lancher. The girl embarrassedly recalls that he was sitting by the window. Skyla asks him with a sly smile to take her to him while she is still in a good mood. She sees Lancher, who truly looks lonely, and thinks of him with sympathy. Hovabot, Lancher's older brother, suddenly appears and greets her happily. He notes with a smile that they haven't seen each other for a long time and complains about the hectic days. Skyla asks with a polite smile how brother Hovivat is doing. Hovabot offers her a handshake with a smile for old time's sake. Skyla thinks with irony, what kind of handshake is this if they have known all of each other's mistakes since they were in diapers? The guy says with a smile that she will soon become the Duchess of Cairn, and he should behave accordingly. The heroine asks where the Duke and Duchess of Sali are, and Hovabot replies that they are at a meeting with the Empress. The girl regretfully realizes that she will not be able to greet them today. Hovabot notices her bad mood and asks what's wrong with her face. Lancher suddenly lays his head on her shoulder, saying that he himself does not know what is wrong with him. The older brother whispers in her ear that Lancher said he would not dance with anyone but her. Hovabot asks her to be gentle with him, reminding her that this is just Lancher. The boy strokes the cat tenderly, calling him his little big brother. The young man, with tears in his eyes, thinks that now even the cat will reject him. Skyla sadly recalls how she spent all this time trying to justify his childish antics. Lancher approaches her and asks her to dance with him. The girl asks in surprise why this sudden change, since she had already danced with the crown prince. The guy hopefully asks if this means she will dance with him now. Skyla looks at him silently, not knowing what to answer. Lancher takes her hand and invites her to go home. The heroine is surprised by his offer, and he says that her hands are icy and she will catch a cold if she stays. The guy sadly asks if this means she won't dance. The young man regretfully wonders if he did something wrong. Lancher asks if she is angry at him for his actions. Skyla replies with slight irritation that she doesn't. The heroine sadly says that they are just friends, and nothing more. The guy objects, saying that friends don't dance together at balls, because that's what lovers do. Skyla replies ironically that the crown prince must be interested in her. Lancher desperately suggests that they become lovers. The young man, with tears in his eyes, admits that even he knows that dancing is made for lovers. The guy confesses his love to her again and begs her not to leave him. Lancher tearfully says he endured, even when she pushed him away time and time again. Now he is terrified that she might actually leave him. Skyla wonders with irritation why he is crying and why he is confusing her again. The guy says that this is already the 323rd time he has confessed to her. The heroine is surprised to realize that she begins to want to stop it. Lancher tearfully tells her again that he likes her. The girl, with pain in her heart, wonders why he can't just love her back. Skyla finally realizes that the poison of years of suppressed feelings has broken out. The heroine asks him directly if he loves her. She reluctantly admits that yes, a little, but immediately asks him to stop. The girl says bitterly that he still doesn't understand what he's talking about. Lancher looks at her in surprise and says that now he understands. The guests at the ball look at Skyla and Lancher in surprise, thinking that they are not bad people. A mysterious man asks Lady Skyla with a smile if she could stop loving for the sake of love. The heroine recalls with horror that Lancher, a great magician, is doomed to eternally fluctuate between magic and emotions. The girl, with pain in her heart, says that she cannot love him. Lancher, with tears in his eyes, asks what he should do if she destroys herself because of this. The guy, in desperation, asks how to make her love him at least a little. Skyla sadly asks him to just not love her. Lancher says with determination that he has feelings for her. The guy tearfully admits that even he cannot control his feelings. The young man says bitterly that she did not ask him to love her. The young man declares that he chose this himself because he wanted to, and will continue to love her, even if she does not accept him. The guy says he won't confess anymore since she doesn't feel the same way. Lancher smiles and suggests that if she ever changes her mind, she should tell him, and he will make his 324th confession. Skyla looks at him in surprise, thinking that his feelings might actually be genuine. The heroine says that she is going home and leaves, leaving him alone. She is immediately surrounded by curious ladies, asking about her dress and her dance with the crown prince. The crown prince calls out to the girl, and she turns around in confusion. The crown prince looks at her with a smile, and she addresses him as Your Highness. The crown prince tenderly asks her to call him Ryan. Skyla coldly replies, No, thank you, which surprises him. The crown prince says with a smile that this is not a proposal, but an order. Skyla is furious at his words, not understanding what the hell is going on. The crown prince notices with concern that she looks unwell. Skyla wonders if he's worried about her because she's his fiancée. The guy says that she means a lot to him. The crown prince says with a grin that she chose a bad friend. The heroine is perplexed and does not understand what he means. The crown prince says that if he were in his place, he would treat her much more kindly. Skyla is confused by his words, not understanding what he is saying. The girl notices the cat with surprise, not understanding where it came from. The heroine is shocked to recognize the cat as Viscount Artesina. The cat desperately begs to be taken with her, and Skyla is terrified of his pursuit. The girl says with a grin that he might have snuck in here secretly. Skyla orders her man to deal with him. Ketnip, in cat form, screams that he will not forgive her for this as he is carried away. In the carriage, Fabrice and the coachman discuss with surprise why she entered with Lord Lancher and exited with another man. The maid, shocked, asks if she will really become the crown princess. The crown prince thanks her for the time spent and hopes to see her soon. Skyla is confused as to why she feels guilty. The heroine sadly realizes that she should not have left Lancher alone. Skyla wakes up from the noise and wonders in confusion who it is at this hour. Her parents burst into her room, screaming that something bad had happened. Duchess Solly appears, and with tears in her eyes, says that she did not find Lancher at home. The woman cries in despair, not knowing where he could have gone. Skyla reassures her with a smile, promising that they will find him. The heroine angrily thinks that she shouldn't have let him go. The girl understood that if she left him with Kovabat, he would not be safe. Kovabat, with a headache, complains that the wine has completely finished him off. Skyla suggests that he go back to the ballroom and search there. The heroine says that she hasn't seen Lancher since the ball, and neither has anyone else. Duke Solly, in despair, says that he was not in the imperial palace, neither among the servants nor among the aristocrats. Skyla's parents are in a panic, not understanding how he could disappear without witnesses. Hovabat suggests that Lancher might have escaped using magic, but is interrupted. The parents hug their daughter in horror, screaming that she must survive. Everything becomes quiet, and they breathe a sigh of relief. Duke Cairn asks the servants if everything is all right, and if there are any wounded. Kovabat screams in rage that these rats from Hevnia dared to attack the Empire. Duke Cairn declares it is war, and orders Austin to raise the entire order. Austin tries to stop him, saying they can't be sure it's Hevenia. The Duke angrily shouts that no one but their army of mages is capable of breaking the palace spell, and it is impossible for anyone but the Archmage. Duke Solly, horrified, says it's not him, it can't be. Austin is confident that Lancher could have done it. Lancher's parents are in despair, realizing that they will have to beg the Emperor for mercy. Hovabat yells at Lancher in rage, fearing that he will leave him without a job. Duchess Solly panics and tries to stop Skyla, who is about to go somewhere. Skyla calmly says that Lancher needs to be brought back, but there is no proof that it is him. The woman, horrified, asks if she understands the risk she is taking by going to a place where there has just been shelling. Skyla thinks sadly that this looks like something he did, and they all know it. Everyone looks at her silently, realizing that she is right and that he needs to be stopped before things get worse. The girl thinks bitterly that she should not have left him alone. The heroine resolutely declares that she must go, because she is the only one who can stop him. Hovabat, a former knight of the Imperial Guard, swears on his knight's honor to protect Skyla. The guy falls to his knees and vomits rainbows as everyone looks at him in shock. Skyla tells her father that she will go with Fabrice and the knight commander, and he agrees. Duchess Solly, with tears in her eyes, asks her to take care of their Lancher. Already on horseback, Fabrezi asks what she will do. The maid says with concern that if Lancher really is out of control. Skyla angrily replies that this is nonsense and she will just hit him and take him home. Fabrezi asks doubtfully how she plans to persuade the maddened Archmage. The heroine says with a sly smile that you will have to turn on your brain. They arrive at the scene where people are panicking and calling for a doctor. Skyla wonders with a heavy heart if this is really Lancher's doing. One of the knights says that it is too dangerous to go further in this condition. The heroine agrees and decides to go on foot, but the knight considers it too risky. The girl reminds him with a smile that he went with her precisely for this reason. A wounded knight blocks their way, saying that they cannot enter now. Skyla introduces herself and asks anxiously, what the hell is going on? The knight is shocked that in front of him is the very same lady from the house of Carolyn. Another knight asks if the castle wall has been destroyed by magic. The wounded man says that he cannot tell them anything and asks them to leave, as it is dangerous here. Suddenly, someone shouts that there is a magician there and asks for urgent help. Ketnip wonders with surprise if this is the healer the Crown Prince spoke of. Skyla angrily asks the Viscount what such insolence means. Ketnip hugs her with delight, saying that he missed her so much. The heroine grabs him by the collar with force, demanding an answer as to how he dares to behave like this. Fabrezi shouts in rage that even she has not yet dared to hug her. And Ketnip panics and justifies himself by saying that he is not some madman, but a court magician. The boy proudly declares that he is the one who has the honor of dancing with my lady, and Skyla thinks that makes him sound even more suspicious. The heroine coldly suggests that he first take care of the wounded. The Viscount treats the wounds and says that they are not fatal, but there are internal injuries, and orders him to be transferred to the infirmary. Skyla asks Viscount Artesina what he meant when he said he was looking for her. Ketnip says with a smile that she must know who broke down the Ulster wall. Skyla breathes a sigh of relief, certain it couldn't have been Lancher. Ketnip regretfully reports that it was Lord Lancher, and no one else could have done it. The heroine covers her face with her hands in horror, unable to believe that it is really him. The girl worries that if he loses control of his magic again, there will be even more casualties. Skyla determinedly orders the Viscount to take her to Lord Lancher. She confidently states that she will take responsibility from now on. Arriving at the scene, the heroine asks what exactly happened. Skyla is in no mood for wordplay and asks point-blank when Lancher started losing control. Ketnip asks in surprise if she means magical overload. Skyla is confused, thinking that he must have committed adultery. The Viscount, shocked, asks if she just read his thoughts. The heroine panics and realizes that she has done it again. Ketnip is horrified by her ability, not believing that such a thing is possible. The guy says that he advised His Highness that this was not true, but they did not listen to him. Ketnip explains that the Royal Knights believe Lord Lancher has rebelled against the Crown Prince. As a result, they achieve the military's execution of Lord Lancher. Skyla says it's absurd to accuse such a reserved man of treason, and the Viscount agrees. The Crown Prince says with a grin that he probably just had too much to drink. Ketnip says with a smile that someone who is not aware of these circumstances might misunderstand their relationship. Skyla wonders wistfully if she still has the right to be near Lancher. The heroine remembers that archmages are paradoxical creatures, and their only weakness is themselves. The girl realizes that the biggest threat to Lancher is herself. Ketnip shakes her, asking her to come to her senses. The boy warns that if she can't stop Lord Lancher, they will have to strike him down. The Viscount says hopefully that they must save Lord Lancher. They approach the door, behind which an ominous weight can be felt, although not a drop of mana can be felt. Ketnip explains that he deliberately hid this from others, as the Royal Knights would have used force. The guy asks in horror if she is going to go there alone, without a weapon. Skyla says with confidence that of course he's going with her. The heroine says that Lancher may not be quite himself, but he will not harm her, but he can be hurt. The girl reminds him with a grin that he is a healing mage. Ketnip enthusiastically offers to escort her, and promises to definitely invite her to the Duchy of Caron. Skyla worries about what will happen if she and Lancher are both injured. The Viscount is perplexed, and does not understand what she means. The heroine explains that this is a manifestation of magic at its limit, and he is on the very brink of a magical explosion. The girl looks at Lancher with concern, not recognizing him. Skyla angrily yells at him, asking if he was the one who destroyed the outer wall of the palace. The heroine angrily scolds him, reminding him that the repairs cost a lot of taxpayers' money. Skyla calls out to Lancher tenderly and invites him to come home. The heroine sadly thinks that now she looks to him like a woman who rejected him, but brazenly appeared again. The girl asks him to come back with a smile, asking for forgiveness for everything. Skyla notices that the light has dimmed and realizes that he is calming down. An image of his mother emerges in his memories, who is glad that he came to her. The maid is touched by how sweet he is, but he only whines in response. In the hallway, the maids whisper about why the younger gentleman lives in a separate mansion. One of them says with disdain that, to put it mildly, he is a great magician. In fact, he is just a monster, and little Lancher hears their conversation. The maids say he was thrown out because he is dangerous and complain that they have to walk so far. Little Skyla angrily screams at him to stay away from her. The girl angrily demands that he apologize to her. Lancher was horrified by her scream, because this was the first time he had met a person who dared to yell at him. The guy sadly asks if he is strange. Skyla asks irritably what he's talking about. The girl says that he is a child who lives here and asks him to take her there. Now grown up, Skyla, with pain in her heart, asks Lancher not to provoke her. The heroine remembers how he said that he would take responsibility. Lancher says bitterly that she was also afraid for herself, but instead of comforting him, she left him alone. Skyla smiles and admits that she likes him and apologizes for constantly hurting him. Skyla thought bitterly that pushing him away was the only way to protect him. The heroine says that this is not to calm him down, but to be honest. Lancher asks, with pain in his voice, why she refused him then. The girl admits that she did it because she likes him. His feelings are once again fluctuating unstably, and she notices this with alarm. Skyla wonders desperately if it's too late to convince him with words. The heroine remembers how Phoebus asked her how to convince Lancher. The girl thinks with a grin that she was simply using her mind. She asks him to let her hit him once. Skyla hits herself hard, begging him to pass out, and Lancher closes his eyes in horror. The heroine walks down the corridor, confusedly wondering if this is true. The girl is burning with shame, not believing that she could say such tender words in front of everyone. Skyla panics, wondering what's wrong with romance and why she's blushing. She realizes with horror that she is actually blushing now. The heroine anxiously thinks about what she will do when she sees Lancher tomorrow, and what they will talk about. The girl lies in bed, thinking that she and Lancher have had so many tea parties, but each time it feels new. Skyla thinks fondly of Lancher, sensing that he feels the same. The guy asks if she feels awkward telling others that they like each other. Skyla asks him with a flirtatious smile, what about him? Lancher replies with surprise that everyone already knows that he loves her. Skyla, shocked, asks what he means. The girl screams in panic, asking if he has already told everyone. The heroine thinks with embarrassment that they like each other. Lancher is confused, not understanding what she is talking about. The guy reminds her with a smile that he always told her this since childhood. The young man says that of all the people in the world, she is his best friend. Skyla asks sheepishly if he means her as much as she means him. She imagines what it would be like to one day live under the same roof with him. The heroine dreams of wanting to grow old next to him. The girl shyly asks if he is talking not about friendship, but about love between a man and a woman. Skyla screams in rage, "What's the difference?" The guy, confused, asks why she is suddenly acting like this. The heroine angrily screams at him not to follow her. The girl asks him not to come to her until she calls him herself. Lancher desperately asks where they can meet then. Skyla coldly says that she just doesn't want to see him right now. The maids ask in surprise where she's going in such a hurry. The heroine replies that she is going to her room and refuses dessert. The maid reminds that this is the same chocolate cake that she chose late yesterday in the kitchen. Skyla, with an indifferent look, says that she doesn't like sweets and let Lancher eat everything. Skyla thinks bitterly that Lancher cannot love her the way she loves him. The girl sadly realizes what it means to be an archmage. The next morning, the heroine wakes up too early. Skyla looks out the window, thinking that Lancher probably won't be back for a long time. The girl doesn't know what to do, because she's never had any friends except him. She was angry with him, but at the same time, she felt guilty towards him. The heroine understands that she had no reason to be so mistaken, but she cannot meet him yet. Skyla angrily decides that from now on, she will only study until these stupid feelings go away. The maid reports that Duke Hovabart of Sali, Lancher's elder brother, has come to see her. Skyla is surprised to ask if it is Lancher's brother and learns that he is waiting in the living room. Hovabart apologizes for coming unannounced. The guy asks worriedly if Lancher did anything to her yesterday, but Skyla denies it. The girl doesn't understand what's going on then. Hovabart anxiously asks her not to be afraid. He reports that Lancher's magic has gone out of control. The heroine recalls in horror the rumors that she could kill even the Archmage. Hovabart looks at her with concern, not knowing what to do. The guy says with relief that fortunately, there was a magician among the guests who put Lancher to sleep with a spell. Hovabart explains that he had to pour 5 large bottles of the magic potion into himself for it to work. Skyla thinks with relief that it's a good thing Lancher is safe. Skyla wonders with horror if all this happened because of her. The heroine, with pain in her heart, realizes that he suffered because of her. Hovabart asks her to go to the Duchy of Solly and wake up Lancher. Skyla angrily asks what he wants from her, because if she wakes him up now, he will break down again. The guy explains that it will be easier for him if he opens his eyes and sees her next to him. The girl screams in rage, wondering if they thought she might be caught in his flash. The heroine sadly says that she didn't want to see him until her own emotions subsided. Hovabart apologizes and bitterly admits that no one but her can calm him down. Skyla remembers that in his tiny closed world, there is only her. The girl, with a pain in her heart, thinks that if Lancher loves her, it means that he simply has no one else he could love. The heroine agrees to go, and Hovabart looks at her with gratitude. Skyla rides in the carriage, thinking that even if her feelings are rejected, Lancher is still dear to her. The girl thinks with determination that as his only possible loved one, she is going to save him. At Solly's estate, she is met by the Duke and Duchess, who have obviously not slept. Skyla anxiously asks where Lancher is now, and learns that he is in the room. The parents explain that he has been under a sleeping spell since yesterday evening, and that Count Deern helped them. Count Deern of the Kingdom of Rivnea appears and introduces himself. Skyla is surprised to recognize him as the very same mage that Lancher spoke of. The Count asks her with a smile if she finds it strange that a man wears earrings. The heroine explains that in the Empire, you rarely see earrings with stones, so she was surprised. Count Deern explains that these are not precious stones, but magic stones that can only be worn by magicians. The boy curiously asks if she is the only one who can stop Mr. Lancher's magical outburst. Skyla thinks with irritation that he talks about it as if it were a puppy. The heroine replies that she doesn't know about the outbreak, but they are really close. The Count says with a smile that this is enough. Duchess Solly asks Skyla to go with Earl Deern as they are going to wake Lancher. Lancher's parents tearfully thank her for coming. Skyla and the Count walk up the stairs, and she thinks anxiously about keeping his emotions from breaking down again. Count Deern suddenly asks if they are engaged. Skyla panics at his sudden question, but he apologizes. The guy explains that he asked such a direct question because he couldn't resist. The Count says he got the impression that Mr. Lancher valued her very much. Skyla asks defiantly if it was him who told him this, since he speaks with such confidence. The Count apologizes, not wanting to offend her, and they continue walking. The guy says that he also had a friend in childhood who was called an Archmage. Count Deern says with a smile that he thought they had a similar fate. Skyla notes with surprise that there are no other Archmages besides Lancher. The Count sadly says that his friend the Archmage died at the age of 16. The heroine is shocked that he was born an Archmage and died so early. The Count bitterly suggests that he died precisely because he was an Archmage. Count Deern says she knows how much emotion affects the Archmage, and his friend also had poor control over them. He recalls how she was often cruelly punished for not being able to contain her magic. The guy says with a grin that it helped, but eventually she stopped expressing any emotions. The girl became just like a doll. Skyla asks anxiously what happened to her. The heroine wonders with horror whether it was the accumulated rage that broke through or the sadness that had flooded her soul. The Count says with understanding that he knows what she is thinking about now. The guy grabs her by the shoulders and says that they must not let this happen. The Crown Prince regretfully says that this is impossible, my lady. Skyla furiously asks if he means to say that Lancher will die too. The Count says with a smile that, alas, people inevitably fall in love. He remembers with bitterness that the girl fell in love for the first time at 16. The guy says with pain in his voice that it was love that killed her. Skyla dreads what awaits Lancher. The heroine, confused, asks why he said she fell in love then. The Count explains that she fell in love with someone for the first time in her life, and everything worked out. He asks her to marry him, and she asks again in surprise. The guy tenderly says that he wants to spend his whole life with her. The Duke angrily asks if she understands what this means. The girl replies with a smile that it's simple: to always be close to the one you love. The Duke is furious and yells at his stupid girl for wanting to marry a man beneath her. The father angrily says that he will ask himself why he decided to take advantage of his daughter. The girl is confused because the obedience she was taught since childhood collides with her reluctance to part with her beloved. The father reluctantly allows her to be with him. The boy hopefully asks if this is true, but the Duke has one condition. The father says that in 3 months they will separate, and by that time, the daughter will cool down and understand everything. The young man was shocked by his words, not believing that this could be true. The young man falls to his knees and begs him, saying that they love each other. The Duke shouts in rage, asking if he thinks he can make his daughter happy. He orders him to leave within 3 months, otherwise he will be expelled from the kingdom. The guy sheepishly says that he was given permission. Her collapsed world seemed to have been restored a little. The guy's heart was heavy, and he doubted whether he could really make her happy. He was a poor minor nobleman, and she was a great sorceress, capable of becoming the wife of the prince of a neighboring kingdom. The guy tells Bliss that it's time for them to finish. He says with pain in his heart that they must separate. The girl is perplexed and does not understand why he wants to give up everything. The guy clenches his fist, unable to utter a word. The young man says bitterly that he doesn't love her anymore. He let her go, hoping that she would meet someone who would give her happiness. Skyla wonders with horror if all this happened because of her. The heroine, with pain in her heart, realizes that he suffered because of her. Hovabat asks her to go to the Duchy of Sali and wake up Lancher. Skyla angrily asks what he wants from her, because if she wakes him up now, he will break down again. The guy explains that it will be easier for him if he opens his eyes and sees her next to him. The girl screams in rage, wondering if they thought she might be caught in his flash. The heroine sadly says that she didn't want to see him until her own emotions subsided. Kavabat apologizes and bitterly admits that no one but her can calm him down. Skyla remembers that in his tiny closed world, there is only her. The girl, with a pain in her heart, thinks that if Lancher loves her, it means that he simply has no one else he could love. The heroine agrees to go, and Kavabat looks at her with gratitude. Skyla rides in the carriage, thinking that even if her feelings are rejected, Lancher is still dear to her. The girl thinks with determination that as his only possible loved one, she is going to save him. At Sali's estate, she is met by the Duke and Duchess, who have obviously not slept. Skyla anxiously asks where Lancher is now, and learns that he is in the room. The parents explain that he has been under a sleeping spell since yesterday evening, and that Count Deern helped them. Count Deern of the Kingdom of Revnea appears and introduces himself. Skyla is surprised to recognize him as the very same mage that Lancher spoke of. The Count asks her with a smile if she finds it strange that a man wears earrings. The heroine explains that in the Empire, you rarely see earrings with stones, so she was surprised. Lancher looks forward to the time when they will grow old and laugh at their little memories. But she cuts him off. Skyla says with tears in her eyes that their feelings are different. The heroine thinks with bitterness that such an idea as holding hands and kissing does not exist in his head at all. The maid announces that dinner is ready, and Skyla and Lancher wake up. The guy invites her to eat with them, but she refuses, saying that she needs to go home. The young man asks hopefully if he will be able to see her tomorrow, but she does not know. Lancher smiles and says he will wait for her message. Skyla leaves, thinking he was just trying to convince her. Count Deern says with relief that he is glad that everything went smoothly. Skyla thinks with a cold expression that Lord Lancher seems to be truly attached to her. Ketnip says with a smile that if she hadn't succeeded, he was going to put the young master to sleep with magic again. The girl asks suspiciously if he has anything else he wants to ask. The Count asks the name of the childhood friend he was talking about. The guy says, embarrassed, that he didn't expect such a question. He sadly recalls that he hasn't spoken her name for a long time. The Count says tenderly that her name was Bliss. Skyla says she doesn't have the luxury of thinking about things like rudeness and will continue to do so. The heroine asks him what he thinks her lover should have done to save her. Count Deern says with a grin that diplomacy is definitely not her thing. Skyla reiterates with determination that she doesn't have the luxury of thinking about it. Count Diurn sadly says that his friend also could not control her feelings. He recalls how his girlfriend died a few days later. The Count says with a smile that she eventually stopped expressing any emotions. The girl became just like a doll. Skyla asks anxiously what happened to her. The heroine thinks with horror about what feeling destroyed her. The Count says with understanding that he knows what she is thinking about now. The guy grabs her by the shoulders and says that they must not let this happen. The Crown Prince regretfully says that this is impossible, my lady. Skyla furiously asks if he means to say that Lancher will die too. The Count says with a smile that, alas, people inevitably fall in love. He remembers with bitterness that the girl fell in love for the first time at 16. The guy says with pain in his voice that it was love that killed her. Skyla dreads what awaits Lancher. The heroine, confused, asks why he said she fell in love then. The Count explains that she fell in love with someone for the first time in her life, and everything worked out. He asks her to marry him, and she asks again in surprise. The guy tenderly says that he wants to spend his whole life with her. The Duke angrily asks if she understands what this means. The girl replies with a smile that it's simple, to always be close to the one you love. The Crown Prince notices that she doesn't seem to be in the best mood. The Crown Prince tells her to rest while the Imperial mages bring him back to his senses. The guy, smiling, assures that he is not so cruel as to execute the princess's best friend. Skyla, lying in bed, asks if she can see Lancher. The Crown Prince replies that now is not the time and leaves. The heroine anxiously thinks about what will happen to Lancher. The girl reflects that the surge of magic itself is not his fault, but why the palace in particular? Skyla thinks with relief that at least no one died, and that Lancher probably unknowingly protected people. Fabrez runs up to her, and with tears in her eyes says that she thought she had lost her. Skyla hugs her, comforting her, and tells her she's okay. The maid says with horror that she will not survive if something happens to my lady, and Skyla thinks with a smile that she will have to live a long time for her sake. The maids apologize, saying that the maid insisted that she must see her. Skyla asks if her parents know she's here. Fabrez explains that his lordship told them, and she herself explained everything in detail. The girl asks if her forehead is okay. The heroine, confused, asks how long she had been unconscious. Fabrice replies that a day and 12 hours have passed, and Skyla is in shock. She realizes with horror that she has wasted His Highness's time and will have to apologize when they meet. The girl asks Fabrizi what's wrong with Lancher. The maid sadly reports that the imperial court took place yesterday, and she was also present as a witness. The soldier says that soon after the ball ended, the fortress wall collapsed. They were just blocking traffic, and then there was an explosion and a flash of light. Skyla worriedly thinks that Duke Carrion's house was shaken then too. The heroine understands that Lancher must have deliberately made his way into the very depths of the palace. Fabrice has a hard time holding back Skyla, who is eager to have an audience with His Majesty. The maid brings the terrible news that Lord Lancher has been banished to the northern lands. Skyla angrily asks if she heard correctly. Fabrice explains that his punishment was limited to exile only for the honor of the Soli house. The girl remembers in horror that he sleeps without pajamas. The heroine screams in panic that such a person will go north and freeze to death there. Fabrice asks, confused, how she knows this. Skyla angrily says that exile to the north is too cruel. She bursts into the Crown Prince's room, and he, unwittingly recognizing Mr. Lancher's preferences in nightwear, looks away in embarrassment. The heroine says with irritation that, by the way, she always sleeps in her pajamas. The Crown Prince thanks Fabrez for looking after his mistress. The Crown Prince asks the maid to leave them alone for a moment, and she reluctantly leaves. Skyla apologizes for wasting his precious time. The girl bitterly says that as the future head of House Cairn, she should have served the Crown Prince, but instead she only caused trouble. The heroine understands that she cannot hear his thoughts, and thinks that if she could not hear them, she would decide that it simply does not work on the princes. Skyla is surprised to realize that she heard his thoughts at the ball. The Crown Prince says with a smile that he cannot forgive her. The girl asks with a nervous smile what she should do to earn his favor. The Crown Prince smiles and suggests that she call him Kayla. Skyla wonders if this is inappropriate. The Crown Prince says he spent a long time thinking about it and hopes she will like it. The girl is surprised, and he asks why she is so surprised. Skyla laughs and replies that it's simply the first time she's heard His Highness speak so directly about his feelings. The heroine admits with a smile that she was a little surprised, not expecting him to give her an affectionate name. The Crown Prince says they will soon officially announce their engagement, so the nickname is perfectly acceptable. The girl shyly suggests that he also stop calling her Your Highness. Skyla hesitates, thinking that calling the Crown Prince by his first name might be a bit much. The guy says with a grin that, if you're being picky, Leon is also his nickname. The heroine is shocked, because everyone in the Empire knows that the Crown Prince's name is Leon. The Crown Prince whispers his secret in her ear, that his real name is Dandelion. The guy proudly says that yes, it is he, the future emperor named Dandelion. The Crown Prince laughingly suggests that she call him Dandelion, but she refuses. The Crown Prince notes with a smile that she grasps everything quickly. The guy tenderly says that he really likes her, Kayla. Skyla is embarrassed to think that the future emperor calls her by a pet name in such a friendly tone, and she really has come far. The Crown Prince says he was going to tell her later, but she had already heard from her maid. Skyla anxiously asks if Lancher is really going to be exiled to the north. The Crown Prince confirms that this is the verdict passed by His Majesty the Emperor. The girl asks with determination what needs to be done to avoid being sent north. The Crown Prince notes with surprise that he expected her to simply ask not to exile him, but she decided not to push thoughtlessly. The heroine bitterly thinks that Febres was right, and Lancher is at a disadvantage in everything. Skyla asks defiantly if they intend to let such talent rot in the north. The Crown Prince says with a grin that to him, he looks like nothing more than a ticking time bomb. The girl confidently declares that she will take control of this. Skyla says with determination that she will put a collar on Lancher and will personally monitor him. The Crown Prince wonders with surprise if this is Kayla's taste, and for some reason he even likes it. The guy regretfully says that it's a pity, and Skyla is shocked by his words. The Crown Prince asks doubtfully how she plans to raise him personally if even his parents have given up on him. Skyla confidently says that she will go north with him if he does not learn to control his emotions within a year. The Crown Prince is perplexed and asks why she should go north if it was young Master Lancher who caused the trouble. The guy asks with surprise if she's ready to give up even the title of Duchess of Karen for him. Skyla reminds him with a smile that he promised to fulfill any request she made. The Crown Prince recalls his promise with embarrassment. The heroine says that she will analyze the cases in which they managed to gain control, and based on this, she will train Lancher. The Crown Prince says with surprise that he could never have imagined that she would spend the right to her cherished wish on such an uncertain thing. Skyla thanks the Crown Prince with a smile for his help. The heroine hopefully asks if she can see Lancher. The Crown Prince says with a smile that she says the same thing as he does. The guy explains that after they made sure he was awake, they removed his guard and he asked to see her. The Crown Prince asks her, with a hint of jealousy, if she thinks she's being too close to Lancher. Skyla replies with irritation that there is nothing like that between her and Lancher. The girl confidently says that this also has nothing to do with the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince agrees with a smile that yes, that is how it was. In the carriage, the coachman asks if they are going to the house of the Duke of Karen. Skyla replies that no, they are going to Duke Solly's house, and Fabrizi says that she is expected there. The maid anxiously reports that all the servants are very worried about her and asks to give her at least 10 minutes. The heroine promises with a smile that she will just take one look at Lancher and immediately